Dr. Rajiv Kumarji, please unmute yourself.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Rajiv ji. How are you?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I am fine, sir.
Thank you very much. Welcome all the participants to the 11th day of the 2-week-long course. We are going to Dr. Rajiv Kumar Panta, and we hope under his leadership, the session will run very smoothly and effectively. We have 4 presentations today, and Dr. Rajiv ji will list out just now who are the 4 presenters in this session. Then we have 2 more after 12 o'clock. And then we have 2 lead lectures. One is on climate change by Professor Devesh Kumar Sinha, and COVID-19 and mental health by Dr. Arshad Hussain in the afternoon. So let's begin with the proceedings of the day, and let's enjoy. Thank you, Dr. Rajiv Kumar Pantaji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. My pleasure, sir. Worthy Director, UGC HRD Center, Kashmir University, esteemed Geer Saab, respected participants from different colleges and universities, and other respected non-teaching staff of UGC HRD Center, Kashmir University. A very good morning to all of you. Today is 11th day of the 2 weeks refresher course in science. I, on behalf of UGC HRD Center of Kashmir University, welcome you all to this morning session. Our respected speaker, Professor Devesh Kumar Sinha, will be joining us at 11 a.m. in the morning session. Before his presentation, we have today 5 presentations in the morning session. I request the participants who are going to present today in the morning session to finish their presentation within 10 to 12 minutes. Without wasting much of your time, I first of all invite Dr. Yasmin Gul from GDC Pulwama to deliver her presentations. She will be presenting on geothermal energy as source of alternate energy for electricity generation. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rajiv ji.
Thank you, ma'am.
Assalamu alaikum to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. You can proceed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 1 second, I'm just sharing the screen.
Okay.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it is. You are audible, but screen is not visible.
But I shared my screen.
Okay.
No, it is not visible.
Okay.
Is it visible?
Yeah. You are getting it. You are sharing the screen, but it is not but it is not coming out. Slides or not. Yes, you can proceed. Okay. You can proceed, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you can go. You can go ahead.
1 second. Yes. Assalamu alaikum to all of you, respected coordinator Dr. Gees, allied HRDC staff, my dear fellow colleagues and participants of this 2-week-long refresher course in science. Assalamu alaikum. A very good morning to all of you. I will present a small talk on geothermal energy as a source of renewable energy for the generation of electricity. I am very thankful to organizers of this refresher course who provided me an opportunity to present a talk on this Zoom platform. So as all of us are aware that energy is one of the major parts of economic infrastructure, being the basic input needed to sustain economic growth There exists a strong relationship between economic development and energy consumption. The more developed is a country, the higher is the per capita of energy consumption and vice versa. Human civilization relies on different sources of energy. As energy being our important concern, energy sources are broadly divided into two groups: non-renewable or conventional sources of energy like coal, petroleum, natural gas, etc. These sources are exhaustible and are present in the nature in the universe in a limited quantity. Next group of energy sources we call as conventional source of energy, like solar energy, hydro energy, wind energy, tidal energy, geothermal energy. These sources are not exhaustible sources and are found in abundance in nature. These sources are now an alternative source of energy to fulfill the demands of the energy for increasing population. So I'll be focusing on one of these non-conventional source of energy, that is geothermal energy. So what is first of all, what is geothermal energy? Geothermal energy is the energy heat within the earth. It comes from the subsurface of the earth. It is simply the energy of the earth generated by various natural processes such as heat from when the planet formed and accreted, which has not yet been lost, decay of radioactive elements, friction, etc. As the diagram depicts, the deeper we go inside the earth towards the core of the earth, the temperature of the earth increases. With depth, the temperature increases. At the core, it is 5000 degrees centigrade, and when we move upwards towards the surface, the temperature decreases like at 4000 kilometers, it is 4000 degrees centigrade. As we said, for the atmosphere, upper we go, the cooler it is. So it is same for the deeper we go inside the earth, the temperature rises. It is becoming hotter. So these geothermal reservoirs are suspected, can be found in the areas where there are geysers, boiling mud pots, volcanoes, and means where the volcanic eruptions happen, hot springs, etc. Continuing with this, the rising hot water, how this geothermal reservoir is formed. The rising hot water and steam is trapped in permeable and porous rocks to form a geothermal reservoir. Reservoirs can be discovered by how we can say that this place is a reservoir, a geothermal reservoir. It is being done by testing the soil, analyzing the ground temperatures. Second. How the extraction is done. Extraction of the geothermal energy, as we have to use it for our purposes, so we have to extract it from the inner of the earth. The heat energy can be brought to earth's surfaces by following ways: directly from hot springs, geysers, or geothermal heat pumps. Heat pumps are employed in the towards the inner of the earth, and heat is extracted from these reservoirs. Uses are broadly classified into two categories. We can directly use this geothermal energy, or we can use it indirectly. For direct use, probably the most widely used set of application involves the direct use of heated water from the ground without the need for any specialized equipment. All direct use applications make use of low temperature geothermal resources which range between about 50 to 150 centigrade, or we can say 120 to 302 degree Fahrenheit. Direct use of geothermal energy use hot springs used as spas, heating water at fish farms, provide heat for buildings, raising plants in greenhouse, drying crops, providing heat to industrial processes. Like this is in winter, the mechanism like this, and this is for summer. Indirect use of geothermal energy is usually done for generation of electricity. The plant which is employed for this indirect use of geothermal energy is like this. It is the reservoir geothermal energy reservoir. From this steam, we get steam, which is the basic mechanism of getting this indirect use of geothermal energy for the generation of electricity. Like the steam is traversing through this outlet, and it is moving the turbines. These turbines then are connected to the generator, and the generator converts the mechanical energy of the turbine to the electricity. There are three types of power plants which are employed for this indirect use, mainly power plants, by which we can generate electricity. One is dry steam power plant. In dry steam power plant, the mechanism like this. Steam plants use hydrothermal fluids that are primarily steam. The steam goes directly to a turbine, which drives a generator that provides electricity. The steam eliminates the need to burn fossil fuels to run the turbine. Steam technology is used today at the geysers in Northern California, the world's largest single source of electricity. These plants emit only excess steam and very minor amounts of gases. This is the same, the oldest type of geothermal power plant used. Geothermal reservoirs containing pure steam is required. Pure dry steam drives turbine is very rare type of geothermal power plant operating at California, Italy, and Japan. Then fast flash steam power plant. It is the second type of power plant used for the generation of electricity. In this, hydrothermal fluids above 360 Fahrenheit or 120 degrees centigrade can be used in flash plants to make electricity. Fluid is sprayed into a tank held at a much lower pressure than the fluid, causing some of the fluids to rapidly vaporize or flash. The vapor then drives a turbine, which drives a generator. If any liquid remains in the tank, it can be flashed, given a second tank, double flash, to extract even more energy from this way. Does not use steam directly to spin turbines, only the heat of the underground water is used. Vaporized hydrocarbons are used to spin the turbine. Hydrocarbons having a lower boiling point, such as isobutane, isobutane, and propane, can be used. No harmful gases emitted to the atmosphere because underground water is never disclosed outside. This is the worldwide accepted power plant. This is the turbine and the generator. How a turbine is connected to a generator, steam outlet, steam entry. The turbine is moved from this turbine blades. Then this is directly, this mechanical energy goes to the generator, where the mechanical energy is then converted to electricity, as we know from the mechanism of the generator. Cost. Direct use of geothermal energy is absolutely cheaper than other sources. Cost of electricity generation depends upon certain factors: temperature and depth of resource, type of resource, steam, liquid mix, available volume of source, size, and technology of the plant. The initial investment is high. For establishing this geothermal plant, the initial investment is high, but then once the plant is installed, then the cost becomes comparative to the already existing electricity generation methods. But after a certain time period, the cost of electricity becomes comparable to other sources. For US, $0.05 to 0.08 means 2.772 to rupees 4.435 per kilowatt hour, which is usually there. Once the capital cost is recovered, the price can be decreased to below $0.05 or 2.2772 per kilowatt hour. Geothermal energy in India. These are the map highlights the places where there have been the geothermal resources, geothermal sites have been found in India. Like this, it is Pongal in Ladakh region. This is in Uttar Pradesh. This side, all these sites have been declared as the sites for the geothermal energy generation. Geothermal provinces are estimated to provide 10,600 megawatt of power. Experts are confident only to the extent of 100 megawatt. Geothermal provinces in India: the Himalayas, Sohana, West Coast, Bombay, Son, Narmada, Tapi, Godavari, and Mahanadi. Geothermal will assist Thermax to set up a pilot project in Kuga Valley, Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir. First operational commercial geothermal power plant is likely to come up in UP in AP with a capacity of 25 megawatt by Geosyndicate Private Limited. These are some information about the geothermal power plants, provinces where there is a scope for driving this power geothermal energy in India. Advantages of these geothermal energy is that available all the year round, does not involve any combustion of fuel, independent of weather, clean resource, very little emission or overall environmental impact, economically sound alternative. The fuel is free, rate per kilowatt hour likely to be competitive. Overall geothermal energy is a sustainable source. Conclusion. Geothermal heating systems can replace fossil fuel heating system in a particular area. Annual costs for common heating purposes can be reduced by more than 60 degrees. Continued energy shortages have created added interest in geothermal energy for power generation. Potential exists to provide all energy requirements in the US. Geothermal energy appears to be a partial solution to our energy needs. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a wonderful presentation. You talked about geothermal energy. You talked about heat energy generated by various sources, geothermal reservoirs, extraction and uses of geothermal energy and advantages. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Rajiv.
I now request Dr. Shahid Ahmed Wani. He will deliver his presentation on wildlife conservation effort in J&K. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Rajesh ji.
Ji.
I'm sharing my screen.
Thank you, sir. Okay, sir, we are getting it. Kindly start.
I'm audible and...
Yeah, sure. You are audible as well as your screen is visible.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Okay, first of all, a very good morning to everybody. And secondly, I congratulate and thank Dr. Gir Saab for coordinating and organizing this 2-week-long refresher course assignments with high professionalism. And I also thank Director HRDC University of Kashmir, Dr. Mushtaq Saab, for arranging various resource persons all over the country for this refresher course. Sir, in this presentation, it's a very small presentation where we will discuss some aspects of wildlife conservation efforts in J&K state. As we are aware that J&K state is a Himalayan state now, UT, sorry. And whatever the data we are presenting here, it includes the Ladakh region of the erstwhile state of J&K. And when we talk of wildlife in simple terms, it includes the animals not domesticated and the plants which are not cultivated in a layman's language. And when we talk of conservation of wildlife and its protection, it is not only the plant or the animal which we can conserve, but it is the whole ecosystem. In conservation process, the whole ecosystem gets involved, whether it is abiotic or the biotic components. And why we need to conserve wildlife? Because wildlife, it is a very important bioresource on this global earth. It has its various values, starting from ecological values, economic values, aesthetics, religious, cultural, ethics, and about the scientific values for experimentation and all those aspects. And talking of the J&K state, the Wildlife itself, the majority of the wildlife species, they are in the forest areas. And Jammu and Kashmir, the major forest area lies in the Jammu and Kashmir region, as well as in Ladakh region. There is very scarce vegetation. Uh, and talking of the total forest area in terms of geographical area, total geographical area is 2236 square kilometers. While as we all are aware that J&K, we have certain areas which are uh, uh, which are what we call as the areas outside this what we call as Pak occupied Kashmir, or the regions which are in the LOC areas. We have a very good area within those areas. And when we talk of total forest area, inside LOC, it is 19.95% of the geographic area, and which is almost 20,230 kilometers. And when we talk of wildlife management in J&K state, we have a department which we call as the Department of Wildlife Protection, which actually emerged from the Directorate of Games Preservation in 1982. And J&K is the one state in the whole India where we have a board of wildlife protection. In 1972 we have established that board. And J&K, before Union Territory, we have our own Jammu and Kashmir Wildlife Protection Act, which was enacted in 1978, and state and this the state before Union Territory, we have a state board of wildlife under the chairmanship of Honorable Chief Minister or the head of the state or UT, which basically provides the policies, guidance, and all the functioning of the state wildlife department. Now, talking of the protected areas in the J&K state, we have a good number of protected areas, including national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, conservation reserves, and in total, we have presently 53 protected areas. And when we talk of total protected area, it is 15,806 square kilometers, including the non-forest areas of the land. And when we compare over protected areas with the rest of the country, and when we compare it to the national average, which is almost 4.8% in the national level, J&K has 15.58% of total geographical area, which is protected under the Wildlife Protection Act. That means it is almost 3 times more than the national average. And these protected areas, they occupy 12.73% of the total forest area of the all the 3 regions of Ladakh, Kashmir, and Jammu region. And talking of the protected areas in other states, if we have a look on the data, we have 53, as already discussed, we have 53 protected areas, whereas Maharashtra 41, Madhya Pradesh 34, Himachal 34, and Rajasthan 28. That means in terms of numbers, we are leading in the country, and in terms of area, we are second after the Gujarat. Gujarat is number one in terms of area, and protected areas. Maharashtra is third, Andhra Pradesh is next, and followed by Madhya Pradesh. And when we talk of these protected areas, the location of these protected areas in the Jammu and Kashmir state, these are the location map of various sites of these protected areas. And likewise, we have so many species, wild species, but there are certain key species in all the 3 regions of the state, which represent from Kashmir. We have the hornbill, musk deer, and markhor ibex. These are some key species which we are protected in these protected areas of Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh, all the 3 regions. And status of IUCN Red Dot Group. This is the data species-wise data of the regions, in all the three regions, and the species, some of the key species which are found in J&K state. These species, these are the key species, and likewise we have we have four national parks, and one of the important national park is Dashingam National Park, which has been protected for these key species animals, musky deer, Hongol, Kashmiri stag, Himalayan crow, and likewise in Kishtawar High National Park. These are the key species which are being protected there, and this national park has been established for the protection of these animals, and likewise for the protection of this wild life. The wetlands also play a very important role, and Jammu and Kashmir is blessed with several wetlands, including Asia's largest freshwater lake, which is Buller Lake, definitely. And these wetlands, they support rich biodiversity of avifauna. These wetlands fall along the Central Asian flyway of winter migratory birds. And winter migratory birds, for these winter migratory birds, these wetlands are very important for their breeding and for their feeding purposes. And in J&K State Wildlife Department manages almost 17 wetlands. 6 in Kashmir, Ladakh. In Ladakh, we have 5 wetlands managed by the Wildlife Department, and in Jammu, we have 6 wetlands. And these wetlands, among these wetlands, we have various wetlands which are of international importance, what we call as the Ramsar sites. What is Ramsar sites actually? Ramsar, there was a convention called as Ramsar Convention, where the importance of these wetlands were discussed, and it was implemented in 1971. And these Ramsar sites, they are the wetlands of international importance. And in India, we have presently 42 Ramsar sites, which were previously 37, and recently it was upgraded to 42 Ramsar sites. And these are the various Ramsar sites in India. And here we will also we can check out the Jammu and Kashmir. We have Ullar and Somrari and other these wetlands. And as far as the Ramsar sites in J&K state are concerned, we have presently 5. That means out of 42, the 5 were sharing 5 Ramsar sites. And among these, we have Ullar Lake, Hokarsar, Surensar in Mansar in Jammu, Somrari, and recently in the previous year, Sokhar, and this is newly added Ramsar site in Ladakh region of J&K. And this is the wetland which was included in the Ramsar list of India, and the Ramsar location map of these Ramsar sites in J&K. And this is this is a photograph of the Hokarsar Lake, and here we can visualize so many migratory birds. And these wetlands are very important in terms of the conservation aspect of these migratory birds, because they provide the feeding and breeding habitats for these birds. But although we have taken so many initiatives for the conservation of these wild species, wetlands and forest areas and protected areas, but still the state it is not enough, as there are yet certain areas where we are not taking care of, where we need to educate people, and we need to understand the importance of these ecosystems, these and protected areas. So we have done so many things, so much has been done, but we need to do certainly more, and there is a way out that what we need to do, that wildlife management requires a strong management of this, requires a strong political commitment and matching bureaucratic support, and we need to strengthen of the forest and wildlife department. And naturally, there should be professionalism in each and every field, and in wildlife department we need professionalism to be enhanced through the capacity building and awareness raising. And we also need the involvement of civil society, including government departments, NGOs, local communities, youth, and students and institutions, as well as, and there is an also a very immediate need of networking with the international and national research and academic institutions for the conservation and for the ongoing research for these protected areas and animals and other conservation aspects. And I think that there is scarcity of time, so I have managed these slides in a very brief way. So thank you. If there is any query.
Thank you, Dr. Shahid Ahmad Wani, sir. Thank you, sir, for such a nice presentation. You talked about conservation of wildlife as a protection of the entire ecosystem, including land, water, air, and the entire range of plant and animal life. You talked about geographical area, wildlife management, protection, protected areas, and extra. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I now request another participant, Dr. Bilal Ahmad Tali from GDC Badgam, to deliver his presentation on diversity of medicinal plants in Jammu and Kashmir. Over to you, sir.
Am I audible?
Yeah. You are audible. Your screen is visible.
Okay. Assalamu
Thank
alaikum and very good afternoon, very good morning to all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Today I'm going to deliver a presentation on diversity of medicinal plants in Jammu and Kashmir. So first of all, World Health Organization defined these medicinal plants as those plants which contains the properties or the compounds that can be used for the therapeutic purposes, or they synthesize those metabolites which can be used or which can be used to produce the useful drugs. And it is human has been using these medicinal plants throughout their history, and it is through the use of these plants that many medicinal systems have been generated across the world. Like we have Siddha and Ayurveda medicines in India, we have compost system in Japan, we have traditional Chinese medicine in China, and likewise we have Unani in Middle East and South Asia. And what is the diversity of these medicinal plants in the world? The Royal Botanical Garden Kew in 2017 published a book in which they showed the medicinal importance of 28,187 plants which are being used as a source of medicine throughout the world. This is the first authentic record of these 28,187 plants which have been published by the Royal Botanical Garden Kew. And what is the status of these medicinal plants? In world, 75% of the population depends on the use of these traditional medicines. And in United States alone, 10% of the total prescribed drugs have the plant origin. And globally, 25% of commonly used drugs contain some compounds from the plants. Now, besides the usage of these plants in the traditional medicine, they are a great source of income for a large population. You can see here that in 2000, the annual trade in these herbal medicines is 17 billion US dollars, and it has exponentially increased. And in 2018, we have 200 US billion dollars trade in the herbal medicine. Now, what we have in India, about 7,500 species are being used as a medicine in one or other form. And among the different states of the India, Jammu and Kashmir harbors the highest diversity of these medicinal plants with 1123 plants. This has been reported by our team, and the paper has been published in one of the reputed journals as Herbal Medicine. Among the other states, we have Uttarakhand with 964 species, and in Sikkim we have 707 species, and 643 species are being used as a medicine in Himachal Pradesh. Now, in the Jammu and Kashmir, how these 1123 species, they are distributed in 564 genera in 137 families. This is the provincial distribution of these 1123 species among the different regions of the state. That is, we have 560 species in Kashmir, followed by 495 by Ladakh, and 474 in the Jammu region. Now, among the 560 species which are being used as a medicine in the Kashmir, 253 are exclusively present or used as a medicine in the Kashmir region only, and it shares 107 species with Ladakh and 124 with Jammu. And there are 76 species which are being used as a medicine in all the three regions of the state. Likewise, we have here for the Jammu, out of the 474 species which are being used as a medicine in the Jammu, we have 251 species which are exclusively used in the Jammu region, and it shares 124 with Kashmir, 23 with Ladakh, and 76 which are being used in all the three regions of the Jammu and Kashmir. Here again we have the Ladakh. We have 495 species used as a medicine, and 289 species which are being used as a medicine exclusively in Ladakh region, and it shares 107 with Kashmir, 23 with Jammu, and 76 in all the regions of the Jammu and Kashmir. Now, how many diseases are treated? We have these 1123 species are being used to treat 330 different types of diseases, and among which the highest number is used against the fever. That is, 251 species are being used to cure the fever, followed by the 161 species which are used for the stomach ailments, 158 species to heal the wounds, and 151 species for joint ailments. Likewise, we have 141 species for the skin infections, 126 species for the respiratory diseases, 122 species for the, and 122 species for other ailments, and 107 species for as anti-helmintic. Now, these are the photographs of different species. Like we have Sasuria costus, we have Aconitum heterophyllum, we have Rheum vivendiva. These are some of the high-valued medicinal plants of Jammu and Kashmir state. These are some of the photographs of these plant species, and there is some other plant species. Now, lastly, what is the take-home message from this presentation? That globally we have 28,187 plant species with medicinal properties, and in India we have 7,500 medicinal plant species. And among the different states of India, JK harbors the highest number of medicinal plants with 1123 species, and among the three different regions of the state, Kashmir harbors the highest number of species, that is 560 species are there, which are used in a medicine, and in total 330 species, 330 different types of diseases are cured by the use of these medicinal plants in Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you.
Uh, thank you, Dr. Bilal Saab. Thank you for such a nice presentation. You talked about diversity of medicinal plants in Jammu and Kashmir. You talked about current status of medicinal plants. You talked about their great source of income, and you talked about that 7,500 species are known for their medicinal uses. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
I now request Dr. Kausar Hassan from Amar Singh College, Srinagar, to deliver presentation on advantages and disadvantages of whey protein. Over to you, Dr. Kausar.
Dr. Kausar Hassan, please unmute yourself. Dr. Kausar Hassan, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, your screen is visible.
But you have to unmute yourself. I'm asking you to unmute yourself.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
You please unmute yourself.
Dr. Kausar, you had unmuted yourself, but you muted yourself again. Please unmute yourself.
Please unmute GM Butt. Please unmute GM Butt.
Okay, this is GM Butt.
Presentation on his laptop. Please.
Okay. GM Butt Saab, unmute yourself. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are audible. Your screen is visible.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good morning to all the participants. I am Kausar Hassan from Amar Singh College as part of research methodology program. I am honored to make PowerPoint presentation on the topic advantages and disadvantages of whey protein. I am sure you will like it. As we all know that proteins are the building blocks of each and every cell. Broadly speaking, proteins are of two types, that is animal protein and plant protein, and whey protein is among the under the topic of this animal protein. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages of whey protein, and there are so many advantages, but disadvantages, little of disadvantages are there. Now, whey protein is a complete protein that is enriched with all the 9 amino acids and is low in lactose content. It is fast and easy to digest. And advantages, one of the advantage of whey protein is it strengthens and increase that whey protein amino acid which serves as a building block for increased muscle growth. It increases releases of anabolic hormones such as insulin, which stimulate muscle growth. Its high content of amino acid leucine is known to trigger muscle protein synthesis at the molecular and genetic level. It also, the next advantage is it lowers the cholesterol also. It has been studied with the obese adults. Average age 48 showed that whey protein could significantly improve their metabolic profile on such important issues as reducing triglycerides, cholesterol, and improving blood sugar metabolism. Next advantage, it also strengthens the immune system. It increases the production of endogenous glutathione that helps detoxify the body. This boosts your immune system and makes it strong. It also strengthens the bones, which has been studied recently at Boston University, showed that elderly individuals who consumed low level of protein suffered a significant loss of bone density. After some years, the start of studies, especially in hip and spine areas. Thus, a diet comprising of whey protein may help maintain strong bones as we age, especially when coupled with an exercise and resistance training regime. Whey protein is a good source of calcium and is considered alkalizing to body, and nutritious diet rich in vegetables, fruits, calcium, rich food, vitamin D, and whey protein will help keep bones healthy and strong. Its advantage is also it lose this fat and preserve muscles. It has been studied and it has been also published in Nutrition and Metabolism. People who consumed specialized whey fraction lose significantly more body fat and showed a greater preservation of lean muscle compared to subjects consuming the control beverage. Maybe it also fight cancer. It helps to fight cancer. Whey protein help in the fight against some common cancers of including prostate and colon. As per some recent experiments in rodents, it was found that there is anti-tumor activity in the protein fraction, and to be more specific, in the whey protein component of milk. There are so many advantages of protein, but little of disadvantages of whey protein are also there sometimes, but not every time. It may be there is indigestion. Most of the research has shown that if you are experiencing any of these symptoms, they are most likely due to either the lactose, which is found almost in all whey protein concentrate, or sweeteners used. With that said, there are various methods of whey protein, such as ion exchange, that can influence how well your body can utilize the protein, leading to improper digestion of the whey itself. And one of the disadvantages, ketosis. While high protein and low carbohydrate diet has proven to help lose fat in short term, its prolonged use may lead to ketosis. Ketosis is a metabolic state where your body burns more fat as a source of energy due to the lack of carbs. This is dangerous as it stresses the liver and causes destruction of muscle tissue. And another, the disadvantage is also sometimes there is osteoporosis, in which bone becomes brittle and fragile due to depletion of calcium and bone protein. There is an increased risk of bone fracture in people having osteoporosis. Although there is no scientific evidence to prove their argument, it is believed that whey protein isolate taken in excess can cause mineral imbalance, resulting in decreased bone density or osteoporosis. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a wonderful presentation. You talked about advantages and disadvantages of whey proteins. You said that whey protein is a complex protein, complete protein. It increases size and strength, building block of muscle growth, lowers cholesterol levels, and you also talked about disadvantages like indigestion, ketosis, and osteoporosis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Can we invite another participant, or we have, because we have kept them two more participants for after between 12:30 and 1.
Yeah, no, Dr. Rajuji,
Yeah,
our
yeah.
is about to join us within a minute or two. So
Okay,
we'll
sir.
now wait for our resource person. We will introduce him, and then he will start his lecture at 11. So
Okay,
by the
sir.
time we introduce him and welcome him, it will be 11. So let's, because he is about to join,
Right.
let's wait for him only.
Okay, sir.
Meanwhile, are there any questions regarding these three presentations? Participants can ask one or two questions to these presenters who presented just now. Anybody having a question may please raise his hand.
I don't think there is any question.
No problem. In that case, we'll just wait for So in the soon after the lead lecture, we will have time for two more presentations.
Right, sir.
Will be delivered by Dr. Syed Mir of Biochemistry Department, and the other one will be delivered by Dr. Tanveer Saab. So I
Yes.
would request of them to be ready before lunch. Then in the afternoon session, Dr. Syed Mir will moderate, and he will manage the participant presentations in the afternoon session. There is one participant by the name of Redmi Note 5 Pro. I would request him or her to rename herself or himself, please, because it becomes very difficult to identify someone who is going to present. Someone having named himself as Redmi Note 5 Pro, please rename yourself. Yeah, I have just now spoken to our resource person, and
Okay,
he
sir.
is connected. He is having some issue with the internet, and he is about to join us maybe in a minute or so.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Manzoor Ahmad Mir wants to say something. Let me unmute him. Dr. Manzoor Saab, you want to say something? Please unmute yourself.
Assalamualaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam.
Sir, I have a query. Good morning to all of you. I have a query regarding examination. When it will be, and because we have to be.
Yeah. Actually, examination will be held. Written test will be held either today at 30 p.m. If the question paper gets ready by then, we are taking questions from the resource persons. And once the question paper gets ready, we will immediately have it. Maybe today at 3:30, or maybe tomorrow at 2 p.m. Because tomorrow is Friday and last day of the course. And first, we will have a presentation tomorrow morning by Professor Ahmed Siddiqui Saab, Vice Chancellor of the Islamic University of Science and Technology. So there will be his presentation first at 10 o'clock. Then there will be another presentation by Professor Muhammad Amin Sofi Saab at 11 o'clock. So then he will continue till 1. And in the afternoon, we'll be having the valedictory session of this course at 2:30 p.m. So if we are not able to have the written test today at 3:30, then we will have it tomorrow between 2 to 2:30 p.m. So you'll be given 30 minutes, and there will be 30 MCQ based questions. So it will be online. We'll be sending you the form online. You'll be able to fill up write down your answers online. There will be 30 MCQs based on the sessions that were conducted throughout this particular course. And then you'll be given 30 minutes, and then at 2:30 tomorrow, we will have the valedictory session. On the valedictory session, our chief guest is going to be Professor A.G. Ahangar Saab, Director, Sikkim, Srinagar. And our guest of honor is going to be Professor Ghulam Mahideen Sangmi Saab, our Dean College Development Council, University of Kashmir. So that is the program for today. It's going to be quite hectic because we are starting at 10. And then the attendance will be taken twice in the morning session tomorrow. We'll be taking attendance exactly at 10 a.m. Then another attendance for the second session will be taken at 11 a.m. So all of you are requested and urged to join us at 10 a.m. dot on time. Then, because first we have one lecture from 10 to 11 by Professor Siddiqui Saab, then 11 to 12 by Professor Muhammad Amin Sofi Saab. Then there will be this written test at 2, if not held today. And then that will be followed by the valedictory session at 2:30 p.m. And Professor Divesh Sinhaji has joined us. So I would request Professor Divesh Sinhaji to please unmute himself, sir. Kindly unmute yourself.
Hello,
Are
good
you able
morning.
to hear me? Good morning, sir. Welcome to this particular session.
My voice is clear?
Yes, absolutely clear, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Dr. Gir Mohammad Ishaq over here. I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, on behalf of Human Resource Development Center, as well as on behalf of all the participants of this particular 2-week-long refresher course on sciences. First of all, thank you for accepting our invitation in spite of your hectic schedule, making it to this particular session. And dear participants, Professor Divesh Sinhaji will be introduced by our moderator, Dr. Rajiv Kumarji. But all I would like to say at this point is that he's going to talk about the climate change, which is a very, very important issue. Climate change presents a borderless and intergenerational phenomena with diverse and far-reaching impacts across the global community. Human activities are irreversibly changing the environment in which society exists and requires collective, immediate, and profound action on climate change. Not only climate change, but climate change education is also very important. And it is this education that aims to address and develop effective responses to the climate change. It helps the learners understand the causes and consequences of climate change, prepares them to live with the impacts of climate change, and empowers learners to take appropriate action to adopt more sustainable lifestyles. It was with this very objective that this particular session was organized today with an eminent resource person, with an renowned scientist from University of Delhi. So we have with us Ms. Sinha to throw light on various aspects of climate change. I would request our moderator of the session, Dr. Rajiv Kumarji, to please formally welcome and introduce our lead resource person, Dr. Professor Devesh Sinha. Over to you, Dr. Rajiv Kumarji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I, Dr. Rajiv Kumar Panta, on behalf of UGC HRD Center, Kashmir University, on behalf of participants of this refresher course, and on my own behalf, welcome you, sir, to this morning session of 2-week refresher course in science. Respected participants, Professor Dr. Devesh Kumar Sinha is presently working as a professor of oceanography and marine geology in the Department of Geology, Center of Advanced Study at Delhi University. Professor Sinha, Dr. Sinha served as the head of the department and Dean Faculty of Science. Professor Dr. Sinha worked as the Dean of Colleges from 2016 to 2018. Professor Sinha, Dr. Sinha has obtained his graduate and postgraduate degrees from Banaras Hindu University and later did his postdoctoral studies from Geomar Research Center for Marine Geosciences, University of Kiel, Germany, on North Atlantic thermohaline circulation and Heinrich layers based on RV zone cores from Portuguese margin. Professor Dr. Sinha has significantly contributed by publishing papers at national and international levels. Professor Dr. Sinha has been member of several important academic committees, including those of CSIR, ISRO, and UGC. Professor Dr. Sinha is also Vice President of Paleontological Society of India. Professor Dr. Sinha has been UGC expert and advisory member of CAS in the geology of Kuman University, Nainital, and at present UGC advisor at Utkal University, Bhubaneswar, and Banaras Hindu University. Professor Dr. Sinha has been a member of governing bodies of prestigious institutions of Delhi University. Professor Dr. Sinha has chaired several technical sessions in national and international conferences and has delivered invited talks and keynote addresses at many prestigious national and international institutions, including Indian Academy of Sciences, Bangalore. Professor Dr. Sinha is an expert panel of reviewers in CSIR, ISRO, DST, MOES, and UGC, and also a reviewer of paper published by Elsevier and other national and international journals. And there is much more about Professor Sinha, which I may not be able to mention here. With this brief introduction, I would like to invite Professor Devesh Kumar Sinha to deliver his talk. Over to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I hope the participants are the teachers working in various institutions. I am going to talk about the issues and challenges for this climate change. And at present, you might be experiencing the very cold weather at Kashmir. I don't know whether how many of you are in Kashmir or out of Kashmir, but we are seeing from the TV news that it's very cold and one of the coldest seasons in last 8 years.
Yes, so that's absolutely.
Yeah. So my voice is clear?
Yeah, your voices are clear. Majority of us belong to Kashmir Valley. Some participants are from other parts of the country.
So I am trying to share my screen, and then the presentation will be visible. Then you can tell me. Just a moment. Are you able to see the screen?
No, sir. Screen, sir, is not visible.
No, sir.
Is it visible?
Yeah, you started sharing your screen. Yeah. Yes, sir. It is visible now.
Okay. Is it now in the slideshow mode? Full screen?
Yeah, it's full.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So let me begin with the statement that the climate change is a term which everybody uses, but we should understand that climate change is not something very unknown, because the nature of the climate itself is to change. We use the adjective only once the things are not as we conceive them. Say, for example, about the cyclones, we cannot say that a very calm and stable cyclone is there, because cyclone term itself involves that it should be very, very turbulent. This is what is the problem with the climate change. That climate property to change. So climate change is nothing new. It is the nature of climate to change. This is the first thing which I want to tell you. Second thing is, what are the issues, actual issues and challenges? As many people think that it is the carbon dioxide concentration, temperature change, global warming, sea level rise. But it is not like that. And that is what is my talk is. I would also request the moderator and the coordinator to please send me the feedback after I have delivered the talk, that whether I am able to change the perception of the people who are attending this talk.
Sure, sir.
So this is what is climate change. Climate is something which has to change. So let us go with the basics, issues, and then the challenges. This is the general perception. You can see on the left top corner, this is the general perception that the ice sheet is melting and sea level is rising. And the second right corner, you can see this is the Arctic sea is reduced. Third is the ocean acidification. And fourth is that North Pole you have desert, symbolized by the camel. This is what is being projected by many people. And before we go further, let me tell you, as the Western world, particularly the North America and Europe, they dictate their terms and conditions to the developing countries like India, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and many African countries. This issue of climate change also has been much imposed by these Westerners on us. And you will understand that why I am telling you. So none of these cartoons have been made by Indians. None of these cartoons by by any Asian. These are all from the West. This is the exaggeration of climate change. Now our condition is like, you can see the ant on the trunk of the elephant. I hope it is visible to you.
Yes, sir.
Now if this ant decides to write the biography of the elephant, you can imagine how difficult is the task, because the life of this ant is few days, while the life of the elephant is almost 100 years. So if the ant has a task to write the biography of the elephant, first the ant has to travel on the body of the elephant to know how the elephant looks like. And by the time the ant completes its journey on every part of the elephant's body, this will die. And the elephant was born 60, 70 years before. An elephant will live 20, 30 years later also. So ant and elephant, this analogy I give you, and this is the problem, that see the size and life of the elephant, even it is not up to the scale. The ant has been enlarged. You cannot see the ant on the elephant. This is our condition. The biographer is us, the climatologist. The elephant is the earth. I hope many of you know that earth is 4,600 million years old. That means 4.6 billion lifespan of a human being. If the human being is healthy, maybe 80 years, 85 years, that's all. But the active life of human being, once he's able to write, study, is hardly 30, 40 years. And the elephant is Earth. Earth is 4.6 billion years old. And you are going to the climate of the Earth, biography of the Earth, and climate change. Many a times I see many people say, let us save the Earth. How can you save the Earth? Earth was there 4.6 billion years ago. Earth will be there few billion years more. You are just an instant of time coming here. Do not project yourself as very important person who can save the Earth. The Earth knows how to live without Antarctic ice sheet. I will show you. The Earth knows how to live without Arctic ice. Earth knows how to live with 800 ppm carbon dioxide. Now it is only 410 ppm. And we are making hue and cry. I am not saying there is no global warming. I am not saying there is no climate change. But I am saying you must be aware of the issue and then you can take decisions. The duty of every teacher, you are also a teacher, is not to only impart information, but to make the minds of the audience capable of thinking independently about any issue. And that is what my purpose is. If I am successful, okay. If I fail, please do inform me. So with this preamble, let us discuss at the top left corner. This problem at the right bottom corner is what is normal. Now, all of you in your lifetime must have fallen ill sometime. And many of you, I don't wish so, but many of you might be suffering from low blood pressure or high blood pressure. Or sometimes you have fever. Then you go to the doctor and doctor says that you have high blood pressure. You have low blood pressure. You have fever because your temperature is 101 degrees Celsius. My friends, how do you know that you have fever? Because of only one premise, that you know what is normal. If you do not know what is normal, how you will know what is abnormal? A person who has high blood pressure must know what is normal blood pressure. Normal blood pressure was 120 by 80 1 year back. And now the scientific committees had defined the new high BP. That means the new normal blood pressure is 130 by 90. So anybody who is having higher than that will be having high blood pressure, lower than that will be having lower. So why this normal shifted to a higher side? Because of the lifestyle people have. Now the normal blood pressure is 130 by 90. Now this normal is what? Normal is average with time. 10 years back, normal was something, and now normal is something. But one inherent thing here is you must know what is normal. Now tell me, my friends, the first I'm trying to of history, and it has undergone several temperature changes, several concentrations of several times ice sheet have melted, they have formed. Now, how to calculate what is normal on Earth? If you look at the lower half of the slide, you have sea level curve right from the origin of the Earth. The red line in the middle indicates the mean sea level. That means average of all these sea levels. Now you can see at present, we are on the right side, means lower sea level. And Earth had several times higher sea level than present. So friends, if you take the normal of 4.6 billion years, then we are not in the era of high sea level. We are in the era of low sea. And this is what is the first issue, first problem, that let us not confuse with the normal of last 50 years, because Earth is very, very old. Then you can ask me the question, should we not worry? Yes, you should worry. You should worry about the cold because it is minus 8 degrees, 7 degrees in Srinagar. Dal Lake is freezing. You have to worry. But I am sitting in Delhi. I should also worry about cold because this is giving us also cold weather. But a person in Chennai, is he worried with 35 degrees Celsius? Because he is not at all affected. So he is not bothered. You are bothered. Similarly, the earlier periods of Earth, we were not there. Human beings, civilization has only come few thousand years more before. So we are worried because it is the first time we are facing these things, but it does not mean that you do not understand the history of the Earth, which is full of high sea levels. You can see the curve here. You have all high sea levels in the past. So this is the first problem. The second problem is there are 4 quadrants here with a laughing face in the middle. The problem of the size is so big that you are not able to comprehend. That is, the elephant is so big that the ant is not able to even see the elephant. An ant cannot see the elephant, and ant can only see the photograph of the elephant. Even you cannot see the elephant total. You have to move around. So the problem of size. Second, right, left, right top corner is the problem of different boundary conditions. That means the Earth's continents have not been in the same position as they are today. So different times the Earth's continents have changed their position. So the problem I will show you in the later half of the lecture how this changing configuration of the continents has caused climate change. The third problem is the bigger problem, that there are too many conferences on climate change. And in every conference, we burn more CO2. We travel by flights, we travel by car, we do the conference in an air-conditioned room, which also causes global warming. All these conferences are adding to the climate change, mind you. And the last problem is the problem the experts who are standing before you, do they understand the science? They not. And that is why you see the last president of the United States, he withdrew from Paris Climate Accord because he was an industrialist. He wanted the industry to burn more and more CO2. So America withdrew from climate change accord. Now Joe Biden is coming again that we will join the Paris Climate Accord. That means the issue of climate change in America, United States, is different once you have a Republican president and once you have a Democrat president. That means, do they understand the climate change? So this is the second problem, problem of size. Third problem, problem of boundary condition. Fourth, too many conferences, confusion. And the last is the persons who take decisions, they don't understand the problem. And now how do we search the solution of this problem? That is also funny, that if you have a problem, you should go for the solution. For solution, you need resources. And if you have resources, you should use them. So how do we use them? This is the condition we are using the resources. So we have too many of resources, but we are not able. The person wants to see on the other side of the boundary. He has so many resources, but the person is not able to use these resources. And this is the problem of us, that we love to about climate being discussed. We copy images from Google, we paste it in PowerPoint without knowing anything about climate. We attend the conference and give the talk. Is my voice audible to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is audible.
Are you able to listen to me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is audible.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So this is how we are solving the problem. Now we have discussed the problem, that was the issue. My title is Issues and Challenges. So I have discussed these issues. Now you see the facts. I will show you the facts. As we have a tendency to believe the West because they bring the Nobel Prize. So let us quote from the West itself. You look at this left corner, this is the sea level curve given by NASA. These are kilo years, 20 kilo years to you have gone very rapidly. But in the past, you can see this is the time where we are living. So sea level change is slowest. We say that it is few millimeters per year, again this is a sort of hue and cry made without understanding their own curve. You can see that the sea level curve has flattened. That means it is not as fast rising as it was. Many measurements from Greenland also, they tell that the sea level rise is slowed down now and it is not as fast as it used to be. Now, if you look at this 20 kilo years, 20,000, 15,000 years, there was no carbon dioxide emission by human beings. Then what caused these sea levels to rise so rapidly? That means it was natural rise. And now we have added with our industrialization, the sea level rise has been minimal. So what is the problem then? Then you will again ask me, should we not worry? I will say you worry because if you know the issues, then you will worry. We should worry. But how to solve that? That is the main challenge. I will again give you an example from the West. These are the Roman fish tanks. You know, the Roman civilization is considered to be a very ancient civilization. In Roman civilization, they used to construct these fish tanks. Fish tanks, they loved fish. And the seamen, they used to sell them the fishes and they used to put them in these tanks. Tanks are filled by an ebb and flow of the ocean always freshens these tanks. And they used to keep the fish there, not in the refrigerator. And fishes used to be fresh. Now these are 2,500 years old. 1,500 years old. And these Roman fish tanks, if you believe the present rate of sea level of say 4 millimeter per year, then in 2005 years, 100 years, these tanks should be under 4 feet of water, but they are not. This is again an example of exaggeration of our problem of the sea level rise. Thus, we need to understand the basics of climate. And basics of climate is why Delhi is hot, Shimla is cold. Why Labrador is so cold and British Isles is warmer. Why Chennai is not so hot or so cold. This is because of the tilt of the earth axis. We have seasons, and at the equator, we do not have any seasons. So if you go to Singapore and you ask a person who lives in Singapore, what is the season? He will say, no season. Because at the equator, day and night are equal. 12 hours day, 12 hours night. So the earth radiation which comes from sun radiates equal amount, so there is no season. And then the British Isles and Labrador, it is the weather, they are at the same latitude, but Labrador current is very, very cold. And thus the oceans which have very high specific heat, they give out heat and they take heat off. So Labrador current takes heat and thus makes the Labrador very cold while the inland is hot. So the seasons and climate, the basics, this is definitely not the mandate of this talk. But you have some interest. So everything has a past, everything has a future. From the past, we inherit the experience and use that experience in future. These were termed by a famous scientist known as Milankovitch, that he gave Milankovitch title that the Earth's rotation round sun, variation in its tilt and the precision, they give rise to glacial and interglacial ages on Earth. These were known as Milankovitch cycles. We will not details of it. Now coming to the middle part of the talk, the role of ocean. Now here at the right Bottom corner, you can see this is thermal image of the ocean. And you can see that the tropical oceans are red, that means they are hot. And the cold blue. The oceans are sinks and source and is greatest reservoir of carbon. Now, what is source and sink? Well, I'll explain you. Once you are out of Kashmir and you come to the places which are warm, people often drink cold drinks, Coca-Cola, Thumbs Up, or anything like that. Any of the cold. The correct term for these drinks is soft drink. Soft drink. But we call them because the soft drink concentrate has to be taken in cold. Why? Because there are dissolved carbon dioxide in that, which once you take gives a sensation on your tongue. But suppose you take a cold drink bottle and warm it a little bit or shake it, then what you will do? The gas will come out of it because the warm liquid is not able to hold the gases. Only cold liquid can absorb the gas. Absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and the hot oceans, they give rise to carbon dioxide. And that is why we are worried about sea surface temperature rise, because the sea surface temperature, geologists have mapped the northern hemisphere or North America and Europe, North America particularly, the ice as it has been melting from 18 kilo year onwards. 18 kilo year means 18,000 years. Now you know that 18,000 years back, there was no car, no industry, no CO2, no Kashmir University, no climate change talk. So what happened that ice was melting rapidly? Because the Earth's natural rhythm is to go from a glacial to interglacial age, cold to warm, warm to cold. And this is a natural period since last 10,000 years. We are already entered into a warm phase. And thus, these ice melting has been due to the natural cause. So should we not worry about global warming? We should be worried, but knowing that worrying is important. If you don't know the facts, then if you worry, it has no impact. With that, the ocean thermal image, you can see now the big ocean currents, they take the warm water towards cold regions and cold waters to the warm region. So this happens and they distribute the heat throughout the globe. This is the blue currents are cold currents and red currents are warm. And throughout the globe, the oceans, they distribute. Now let me come to the third part, which is, we have 4 in the lecture. The third part is, you should know how you accumulated the wealth. Suppose a person who has worked for 50 years and has accumulated even 10,000 rupees. And suppose some thief comes and steals that money. Now look at the person's agony, because he has done so much of hard work to accumulate that money, the person will be worried. So you should know how we accumulated ice on Antarctica. I will explain in very simple terms. Antarctica has ice sheet. Only 2% of the Antarctic continent is exposed. Otherwise, 98% is covered with ice. How did it accumulate? It accumulated movement of the continents, as I showed you in the first slide. Initially, South America was joined with Antarctica. And then what happened? There was no current surrounding Antarctica, no cold current. It was Australia was also joined with Antarctica. So we had Australia and South America. They were both joined with Antarctica, and thus the passage was not there. But with time, what happened? This Australia moved north, South America moved north, and thus the passage becomes clear. And due to the west wind drift, you have a cold atmospheric current surrounding the Antarctica, and it protects the Antarctica from any warm winds or warm currents. Summary, that we have Australia and South America joined together. Later on, they moved northward. Now we have free circulation around Antarctica. So there is very less of ice here because it was on South Pole, and now you have bigger ice, and further in time, Antarctica ice sheet grew. This is just like you just close the fridge, the cooling will be very, very high. So Antarctica surrounded by a cold current, because two continents moved away from Antarctica. You can see how much hard work they did to move two continents away from Antarctica, create a circumantarctic circulation, and build thick ice sheet from Antarctica. See the hard work done. And now come to the Greenland, that is northern hemisphere. Greenland ice sheet was possible not because of separation of the continents, but because of joining of continents. Why? Because the ice sheet requires you a lot of moisture of it. Mere cold temperatures will not give you ice. Just like in Ladakh, you have desert, but no ice sheet as you have in Kashmir, because of the moisture is there in Kashmir Valley. It's a valley. It's a lot of convective clouds, no fall there. So in Greenland, what happened? Here, these two continents, they were joined together first. And that is a current. You can see in geography, this is called as Gulf Stream, which used to go here. This used to lead here into the Pacific Ocean. But once these were joined together, first this was separated. Once the joint has created what we call as Panama Isthmus. And now this Gulf Stream has become so strong that this gives you moisture to the northern hemisphere, causing the Greenland ice sheet. So, in nutshell, what happened? Antarctic ice sheet formed because separation of the continents. Greenland ice sheet formed because of joining of North Americans. So this is how the Earth works. So much of effort, and then you had two poles with ice sheet. The last part of the lecture, issue of global warming. Have we not copied the terms of the West? They do house warming in Canada and USA, where you have minus 30, minus 40. If you do even house warming in Kashmir, I can understand. Warm welcome, warm. But in Delhi, if at 47 degrees Celsius in June, I do house warming, nobody will come to my house. The warmth has come from there itself, from the climate. The Hollywood is there, the Bollywood is here. We could not find a good term. 9/11 is there, 26/11. We always copy. Terrorism also we copied. Everything we copied. Why should we copy? Why we should copy America? Whatever it tells, we copy because it's Westerners. We should respect them. But have we ever thought that the copying of Americans and Europeans will not work? You have India, you have your own third world. We should be very, very careful not to sing their song. So this is the last thing. What is the issue of global warming for which these people have so much of concern and they are dictating the third world? Only 3-4 slides and you will know the issue. The issue is, this is the typical scene of North Atlantic, Greenland, Iceland seas, we call as Nordic seas. You can see there is an ice and there is sea ice and there is water also. The water and sea ice can exist in equilibrium. Now this water is freezing and making the sea ice. And you know that this water is saline water. Now this saline water has in it. So once it freezes, the ice is a solid which crystallizes and salt is also crystallized. But the two crystal systems, they are not same. So when the salt water freezes, it rejects the salt back to the sea. So if you are very thirsty, you can take this ice, melt it and drink. It is not that salt. 70% of the salt is gone back to the sea. Now, if you know that a dense water is heavy water, water at 4 degrees C is heaviest, that is the densest. So, and together with the salt rejected by this ice, the water becomes too heavy. And with this, what happens? At this place where I showed you last, the water starts sinking to the bottom of the sea. And if you sink so much of water from here, the tropical waters will rush. So the water is sinking a huge area in North Atlantic. And then the waters from the tropic in the say Gulf Stream is coming. Now simple physics. This warm current, once goes to the colder latitude, it loses heat. And it gives free heat to North America and Europe with no money involved. So I also tell you the volume of this water which is sinking. You have so many rivers. You have Jhelum in Kashmir, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, and then you combine all these rivers of India. Then combine all the rivers of the world. Take entire rivers of the world and make a big river. Multiply by 100. This is the water which is sinking here. So you can think of, if this water sinks, how much water is going here? And how much is heat being supplied to North America and Europe? The energy which is being supplied to North America and Europe is more than whatever power you are generating from thermal power, hydroelectric power plant, nuclear power plant, all over the world. And you know how much it is costly. So if you calculate the cost of energy given to this warm current to North America and Europe, it is more than the power generated all over the world. That means these people will be concerned that the sinking process must continue. If the sinking stops, then this incoming of the tropical waters will also stop, and these countries will go into an ice age.
Can I say something, sir? Voice is not clear. There is a breaking of voice, sir.
Just wait for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, I can't help because is it clear?
Okay, sir. You may continue, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir. It is audible.
Yeah. So this is called conveyor belt, which connects the entire ocean. So we always learn from the past that was this or this sinking, how it can stop. And to know this, you please refer to this slide which I showed. suppose global warming really happens and this ice melts, then this ice is relatively fresh water. And this melt water will be produced here and the sinking will stop. And if the sinking stops, the free delivery of warm ocean will be stopped. And then what will happen? The North America and Europe, they go to an ice age. And this is what happened 12 kilo years back. It really happened. And thus these countries are very much worried about global warming. So this is the main issue. The challenges is humanity is all one. It is not America, Europe, or India. We should be worried. We should reduce carbon dioxide emission, but that cannot be done through conferences and seminars. They can be done how? They can do technology. So the only thing which remains is that you develop technology and then we can have some kind to this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have finished.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation and thought-provoking deliberations. Sir, with your permission, can we take a few questions from the respected participants,
Sure.
which are posted in the chat box? Sir, our first question is from Dr. Firdaus Ahmed. As per his statement, recently a paper retracted from Scientific Reports journal in which it was stated that global warming is caused by sun. How would you comment on that?
Well, this was retracted and it is correct also. See, the sun is external source of energy. Role in global warming. But the sun is there for billions of years. So you have to remove that. Sun is warming you every day. Radiate. 12-year cycle is there. Okay? So sometimes the sun heat we receive is slightly more and sometimes it is less. But in long run, solar cycles have controlled the warming and cooling of Earth due to Milankovitch cycle, that is the orbital meters of the Earth. The dimming of the sun or the solar flares, they cause little bit of heat budget on Earth, but it's not that significant.
Okay, thank you, sir. Second question is from Dr. Siraj Pere. What is buffering potential of environment to those greenhouse gases? How have we reached to the threshold?
Well, this is a very good question because I'm thankful to the person who has asked it, because threshold is the main problem in the climate system. Buffering which is done, buffering has also a threshold till how many times you can buffer. Say, I give you this example of buffering through El Nino. The Pacific Ocean, it is a great buffering system for global warming. It absorbs heat and transfers to the lower part. But once El Nino comes, entire Pacific becomes warm. And that is the threshold of this buffering system. And then when the entire Pacific becomes warm, it throws out heat. And that is recorded. Sometimes people confuse it with global warming, but it is not. What you have asked is true, that it is not of the Pacific which has reached. And then the El Nino comes. Similarly, every system has a threshold. And threshold is crossed, the system switches over to one state to the other state. In the long run of the climate system, linear system, we are really not aware of the threshold. We do not know at what temperature the Atlantic, this thermohaline circulation may stop, and this Europe and North America go to a ice age. So this is very important to understand the threshold, which we are really not able to understand so far.
So, sir, thank you, sir. There is a third question by Dr. Rifat Bashar. Sir, in 2019 UN Climate Action Summit, 18-year-old environmental activist Greta Thunberg used the word "how dare you" and make all the schools to strike for climate change. What is your take, sir?
I cannot comment on any personal comment by anyone. I don't know her educational background or what prompted. So
Okay. Next question is from Dr. Ishtiaq Ahmed. Global warming is political issues rather than a scientific. Your comment, sir?
both. I have discussed the politics also. It is up to Dr. Ahmed to think how much political and how much scientific. But let me tell you, it is the political will that you can mitigate the climate change. The scientists have no power.
There are other comments from the other participants. For example, there is Dr. Yasmin Gul, who is expressing her. She is saying that it is a wonderful presentation, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Yasmin, thank you so much.
Can I ask one question? I'm Dr. Arshid from Department of Environmental Sciences, sir.
Yes, sure.
Welcome.
Yeah, it was a very nice presentation, sir. And as you said that, sir, Earth has been evolved 4.5 billion years. And there have been various events, that's like glacial events and then interglacial periods. And carbon dioxide levels and sea levels have been rising. But my question is that human beings have been evolved just, if we take agricultural revolution, 10,000 years, we will take that human beings have evolved. And the Earth before that was not conducive for these human beings. And that's why the concern today is that if because of these Milankovitch cycles and other factors that Earth can survive, as you rightly said, on its own. But it is the question that whether human beings can survive in that environment or not. Sir, that's my question, sir.
Yeah, your question is very much valid. But on the lighter side, I tell you that human beings have a very peculiar characteristic that we solve the problems created by us. So, you see this global warming or whatever it is, the Earth can survive because Earth, as you know, that is lived without ice also. But human beings can survive or not survive. It depends upon the human beings themselves. Because the whole problem created by us. And we are trying to solve a problem created by us. And I showed you a slide also, how we are solving that problem. Can you stop the desire of a small child which is there in your home to have an iPhone, a mobile phone, car, a good flat, whatever it is, computer, you take the carbon fingerprint of every item which you use. And this conference is creating carbon dioxide emission in the atmosphere. So your question is very much valid. I am not in should not be concerned. We should be concerned, but we should find the solution. And solution is only because every problem solution inbuilt solution. This problem has been created by technology. So the solution also lies in the technology. You have to bring down the emission by creating electric cars. You have to improve the technology so that in everything what we produce, less and less carbon dioxide emission is there. But let me give you an outright solution, out of the box solution. If human beings can flatten the curve of their desires, the climate change can be mitigated.
Yes, sir. That's correct. Thank you, sir.
I request other participants if there is any question, Professor Sinha is kind enough to answer all those, reply all those questions. Please, if there is anyone more question, you can ask.
Dr. Rajiv.
Everyone.
Yeah, Dr. Rajiv, nobody else raised his hand. So I think Professor Sinha Saab has answered all of the questions.
Right, sir.
So would you like to say anything else before I conclude?
Yeah. Okay. I would like to thank Dr. Professor Sinha for his wonderful presentation and thought-provoking deliberations. Sir, you have enlightened us with your experiences. You have beautifully explained the concept of climate change issues and challenges. Your lecture was really very interesting and very informative. I am feeling short of words to express my thanks. Your presence has really delighted us. We also hope to attend you, sir, your lecture once again. You talked about climate change. You said that climate change is real and serious issue. And you talked about issues and challenges of this climate change. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor. Of course, you have presented your views in a very articulate and in a very eloquent manner and in a very simple and lucid fashion. You have explained all the nitty-gritties regarding climate change, global warming, and all other related issues. This session was quite enlightening. It was quite interactive. Also, you answered all the questions asked by the participants. Yes, sir. Here I would like to emphasize that education is an essential element of the global response to climate change, and it helps people understand and address the impact of global warming. It increases climate literacy among young people, encourages changes in their attitudes and behavior, and helps them adapt to the climate change related trends. And therefore, sir, climate change education helps policymakers also understand the urgency and importance of putting mechanisms into place to combat climate change on a national and global scale. Communities need to learn about how climate change will affect them, what they can do to protect themselves from negative consequences, and how they can reduce their own climate footprint. In particular, climate change education helps increase the resilience of already vulnerable communities who are the most likely to be adversely affected by this change. You have sensitized all of us in this group today, and we are sure that the participants would carry back these lessons learned from here back to their students, and they would propagate these issues and propagate this education back to their students with a view to contribute in whatever little way they can, whatever little humble and modest manner they can. Once again, I thank you, sir, on behalf of the Human Resource Development Center for sparing time for this particular session and for interacting with the participants of this refresher course. We are
Thank you for your very kind words.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You can take your leave, sir, and we will continue with our participant presentation. We would love to have you again in future, sir.
Thank you. So I'll leave the meeting now.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Can I speak something?
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Finally, I would like to thank Professor Geer Saab for giving me an opportunity to moderate this session. Thank you, sir. We have two more participations.
Tanveer Saab has loaded his presentation, or Dr. Syed Mir?
I will call first.
Leave the meeting for now.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think Dr. already uploaded the presentation. You can allow him to continue.
Yeah. Sure, sir.
Dr. Mir, please unmute yourself. I will just ask you to unmute yourself. Let me find you out. Can you please raise your hand, Dr. Syed Mir? Yeah, I'm asking you to unmute yourself.
Hello, is my voice audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Kindly share your screen.
Just a second. Is not my screen there?
Yeah, it is coming.
Just a second. Is my voice audible?
Yeah, you are audible, sir.
Okay, can I
okay?
start?
Yeah, sure.
So, I welcome everybody to my presentation. Assalamu alaikum, namaskar, sat sri akal. And my name is Saeed Mir. I am currently basically a faculty member I'm teaching clinical biochemistry at University of Kashmir. And before that, I have started my academic career from, which I have not mentioned here, is All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Before that, Hamdard University. Then I moved for my basically research studies to Germany at MPI before joining here. Actually, regarding my presentation, I mean, it is a bit funny that I was ready from the beginning. Like Professor Gir Saab had asked me to remain as a backup every day. And this is my basically third topic I had to change meanwhile, because the first topic I had actually, I wanted to take was this COVID and the vaccination. And that with that, then I found there were many presentations on COVID and many presentation on vaccinations. It is just yesterday, then I finally basically changed my topic to what to present here. I don't want to, I mean, repeat the same things which you have basically, which you are hearing from last 2 weeks. So, okay, what I would be talking about will be basically, I would like to make it simple because as such, this is my own research field. And I would not go into much detail into that. That will make it boring, because I realize that there are many people who are not from life sciences. And I would like to just give you the sort of an importance of this work or a field. So my topic, I would be basically talking about the generation. Is my slide there visible?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is visible.
I will be talking about the generation of avian monoclonal antibodies against membrane proteins, why and how. So two things, I mean, for non-life life sciences people, avian will mean the birds. The monoclonal antibodies, you understand that antibodies are the proteins. To be more specific, they are the glycoproteins that our immune system, particularly for example, the B lymphocytes of our immune system, they produce them whenever we get exposed to some pathogens, to some foreign antigen. Those proteins or those glycoproteins are known as antibodies. And a monoclonal antibody is basically all the antibodies which are basically produced or which are a progeny of a single B lymphocyte. Why? Because a single B lymphocyte will always have only one functional gene for the polypeptide, each polypeptide of an antibody molecule that makes an antibody. Therefore, all the antibodies produced within the single B lymphocyte, they will always basically bind to the same antigen at the same place on the same epitope, and they will have all properties same in terms of the size and in terms of their amino acid sequence. And what I'm going to discuss here is my research basically intended to produce those antibodies against membrane proteins. I would like to deliberate upon like why on membrane proteins, why I intended to do that, and why basically monoclonal antibodies from avian, from birds, because all of you who are from life sciences here, they know that the common monoclonal antibodies which are in the market or which are drugs or which you use during your Western blots, ELISAs, they come usually from their murine sources, from the mice. And this is very unusual to produce an say monoclonal antibody from the bird. So in my next slide, I would like to deliberate upon why membrane proteins. So to tell you all of you, because the life of our cell depends on the activity of its membrane. Membrane is the most important I will say an organ or organelle of the cell. Any cell which has an active membrane, that cell is the only cell which can be said this is a live cell. A cell can be live without a nucleus, without DNA for a while, but a cell can never be a live cell without an active plasma membrane. And the activity, the liveness of that plasma membrane actually is attributed to or is because of these membrane proteins that are embedded in this membrane. These membrane proteins, they function as gateways to the cells. They do the membrane transport, which is very important. Our every cell needs to take nutrients, to take different signals, to take different salts in, and they need to sometimes to export proteins, to do everything, to exclude some salts. All those functions are done by the membrane transport, and the membrane transport, the function is actually done by the membrane proteins. Also, these membrane proteins are involved in inter-cell to cell communications. They interact with each other and with from one cell, for example, say like in our endocrine system, a cell produces a hormone, which then travels to a different place, then another cell receives it. That hormone is synthesized within the cell and has to go out of the plasma membrane. It uses one of its membrane proteins, the same. Okay, commercially, and pharmacologically, 70% of the drug targets, the drugs which we have in the market today, there 70% of the money is generated from the drugs world over that target the membrane proteins. So this is a sort of giving you an idea why study of membrane proteins is important. Okay, not only that, if we go to the human genome, or for that matter, any other genome in a mammalian system, 20 to 30% of our genome, total of our genes, out of that 20 to 30% are actually code for integral membrane proteins. To give you this idea that they are widespread in our genome. Okay, but unfortunately, what is not good is that the structural and mechanistic information for majority of them is unknown. How they look like, what is their structure at molecular level, how do they function? We don't know much about the many of the membrane proteins still today in 2021. Okay, the reason for that is membrane protein study and their structural crystallization and structural studies are difficult to do. Okay, actually, I had prepared this lecture yesterday, and the data stands true for exactly yesterday morning. Like we had a PDB where we basically submit all the structures of the proteins, nucleic acids, or different like macromolecules. And as of yesterday, there were total proteins which were protein structures which were submitted to Protein Data Bank (PDB). They stand at something 1.5 lakh structures. And then I tried to find out the information, how many of them are basically unique membrane proteins. They are only 2,200. So that gives you an idea. Like this is not even 1% of the submitted structures. This is not even 1% of the submitted structures which are the membrane proteins. To give you an idea how difficult probably the structural biology of or structural determination of membrane proteins is. So why is basically membrane protein structural biology, or why is membrane protein structural determination is so difficult? Because you don't usually obtain easily the crystal structures. You cannot easily grow the crystals of this membrane proteins by which you can later on study them via extracrystallography, or you can go by NMR or IPR or different studies. The reason for that is membrane proteins are embedded in our membranes. And as soon as you try to take them out of the membranes, they become unstable. And the reasons for their instability is because of they are in the membrane, they are not compact, they are soft, they are flexible. And as soon as you take them out of the membrane, they basically collapse and they precipitate. And that is why it is quite. Other than that, the portions of the membrane proteins, like when they are embedded in the membrane, which are from the cytosolic side and which are on the membrane outer extracellular side, they have these loops which are flexible domains, and these flexible domains and the overall flexibility of the membrane protein, they don't allow them to form the tight crystals, which is a prerequisite for getting good quality crystals for X-ray diffraction studies. Okay, so here is a brief one of the strategies that is being used or that has been used now for many years by my former supervisor is that co-crystallization of antibody fragments, co-crystallization of membrane proteins with antibody fragments. What he thought was actually what I'm talking about is the crystallization of membrane proteins by Professor Hartmut Michel at University of Frankfurt, sorry, at Max Planck Institute of Frankfurt. He actually was the first one actually to crystallize the membrane protein. Overall, membrane proteins were before his crystallization was thought to be, if we open up old biochemistry books, it is still written that membrane proteins are uncrystallizable. And based because back in 1985, when he crystallized the membrane protein, it itself was a very big breakthrough, and he received the Nobel Prize for that. The same professor like developed this technique by using of antibody fragments for the co-crystallization. He thought, okay, when he realized that the membrane proteins have these flexible regions, and they basically, when you take them out of the membrane, like he used the very mild detergents to extract them from the membrane, then to sort of lock their flexible regions on the extracellular and cytosolic surface. He used antibody fragments which will bind to them, and then they will lock like our sisters do to use the clutch to lock the hair at the back of their head, exactly to fix the movement. So PABs and FV fragments, these are the parts of the antibody fragments basically which actually bind to the antigen. If those who are from the biology here, the antibody as such is a big molecule, and it has its own flexible domains. It has a Y-like structure where two arms are flexible. So instead of using the whole antibody molecule, he used just one arm, one hand, which could be either named as PAB, and its smaller part is FV, variable fragment. He used them to first fix on the membrane protein. It has two advantages. One, it limits the mobility of these flexible domains that stabilizes the given membrane protein in a defined conformation. Then in addition, it has one also advantage, that it increases the polar surface area of the whole complex of this membrane protein antibody complex. Why? Because during the crystallization, it has been seen that it is mainly the polar regions which form the crystal contacts. Okay, now what was here a different requirement about these antibody fragments is that they should be native conformation binders. Like I will explain that in a while, and they should form a stable complex in solution. That you need to have such an antibody who has that much good affinity that if you put in a solution antibody and membrane protein, it should be able to catch it, and it should not be allowed to basically get dissociated from it. What is a conformational binder is? It is an antibody molecule whose epitope is the basically the part of the antigen where it binds. Usually we have two types of epitopes. For example, if you all of remember, somebody in our yesterday's lecture was discussing, Tariq probably, that we have like antibody are generated against a stretch of amino acids, that the antigens are mostly proteins. That is true. Antigens are mostly proteins, but there are non-proteinous antigens also. Sometimes you can add nucleic acid acts as an antigen or this thing. But coming back to the conformational epitopes, it is there are two types of epitopes. If antibody binds on a stretch of amino acids where the amino acids say lay 4, 5 or 6 amino acids, or in a linear fashion on an polypeptide, we call that a linear epitope. Okay, but there are another group of epitopes is for example, an antibody binds, so what we call here is a native conformational epitope binder, will be when the epitope is formed by the amino acids which are not linear, which are actually present in many different loops. For example, an antibody recognizes 4 amino acids as its epitope, but those 4 amino acids are present on 4 different loops. Such an antibody will, when it will bind to the membrane protein, it will lock all those epitopes together. But the disadvantage here is, this is the type of antibodies you need here. But the disadvantage with such type of antibodies is, for example, they will not work in Western blot or something like where a protein gets denatured. They will not recognize their epitope when a protein is in denatured form. So how to basically counter these problems? Okay, before I go to that, here are some examples of successful structural determination of membrane proteins by using this strategy, co-crystallization with antibody fragments. Actually, the first ever protein that was crystallized and whose structure was solved by this approach was the cytochrome C oxidase. I don't know how many of here are actually from the life sciences. You remember the cytochrome C oxidase from the electron transport chain. It's a very important drug target, and this structure was solved like at Max Planck Institute of Biophysics, Professor Mitchell. Later on, this technique was taken by a few of the groups worldwide. Very common them, I mean, some two famous of them is, there are four or five groups which have been really successful in utilizing this technique, co-crystallization with antibody fragments. One is McConnell from University of New York. Another is Brian Kobilica, and who had a few years back crystallized the first human GPCR. He is from University of California. And incidentally, out of those three scientists, like who are here, who have used this technique, three of them are Nobel Prize winners. McConnell won the Nobel Prize probably in 2002 or 2003, and Kobilica got it a few years back, and Mitchell had got it 1987. So till now, although this data is a bit old, few 2 years back, there must be something around now 30 or 35 membrane proteins whose structures have been basically solved by this approach, co-crystallization with antibody fragments. 2 years back, we have basically documented all those details in one of the reviews, which is mentioned below. And now, what is the problem? Basically, if I told you this is a very potent and this is a very a very strong technique to obtain the structures of the membrane proteins, then why so little? Why only 27 or why only 37 structures? What is the reason? The reason is, like I was describing before, the type of antibody we need, this conformational specific antibody, and that which binds very tightly, which have something around nanomolar affinity for its target. Okay, so the reason for the bottleneck for this wide use of this strategy is the limited availability of suitable antibody fragments. And the reason for that is, so how we can overcome these low availability of suitable antibody fragments is because there are the two limitations. One is mainly the antibodies, which even the antibody that was used in the first two structures, which I showed you right now, when I go to the list of the one of the Hartmut and that of the McConnell, they use the antibodies that were produced by traditionally by hybridoma techniques. All life sciences people here know the hybridoma technique is the technique which has also received a Nobel Prize many years ago, where you take a B lymphocyte that is producing the antibody cells and you fuse it with a cancerous B cell, so that you get a plasmacytoma which never dies then, but keeps producing antibodies of only one type for you. So that is, but the hybridoma technique is mainly limited in the production of antibodies in mice. Okay, so that is here the problem. What happens is, because most of the membrane proteins, because mice are also mammals, they are very similar. Their membrane proteins are very similar and conserved to like that of ours. So when you use a membrane protein which is highly conserved across the mammalian kingdom, which is true for most of the membrane proteins, what happens is you don't get a good immune response in mice. Okay, so Raju Saab is asking me to conclude.
You can
he has messaged, huh?
You can take 2 minutes, sir. Within 2 minutes.
Do we have some more people here today waiting or what?
Yeah. We have 2 more participants.
Okay, I will conclude my presentation with the 2 slides that to overcome this problem, what I did was I used phage display technology, and to overcome this problem of the lack of producing a good immune response in mice, I changed the host to the non-murine host. Phage display technology is an alternative method. Phage display technology is an alternative method to produce monoclonal antibodies that does not rely on the hybridoma approach. And non-murine host, I will skip this, I will go here. What is a phage display is that you use a filamentous phage, which are around 100 nanometers long, and you put a gene of a desired antibody inside the genome of this phage. The phage, when it will express its genome, you fuse this your gene of antibody of interest with one of its coat surface proteins, and that protein will be expressed on the surface. So what happens is, because of that is, so you get that your desired protein expressed on the surface of the phage. The approach is known as phage display, and the different proteins that have been expressed on the surface of the phage are different antibody fragments. And how you select basically from the phage display, why this is a very powerful approach is, if you remember 2 years back, this technique got the Nobel Prize. This Nobel Prize was actually got this guy, Professor here in the middle. and the people around him are actually the people who established this technique for the production of monoclonal antibodies. So you basically take all the antibody genes, take them all together, put them in this bacteriophage vector, and then all those genes and the proteins they will be coding, they will be expressed each on a single phage particle. So you get a sort of a phage library, which is known as antibody phage library. If the expressed protein on the surface of the phage is the antibody molecule, then you take that library, you let it incubate with your target antigen, the one you want to select antibodies against. You can wash away the non-specific binders, then you can elute the specific phage. The specific phage will have a perfect antibody on its surface that you need, but at the same time, it will carry also have the gene. It will also have the gene inside it. So this is the only technique where your phenotype in terms of the protein or an antibody molecule is directly linked to the gene. You don't have to then to struggle for tens of years to find the sequence or to find the gene for that. So this makes this technique very powerful. Other than that was recognized last year by this Nobel Committee. Like there are a different, like a number of now antibody fragments which are used now as drugs, which have been actually developed by this technique. And one more like quality with this technique is these phages, these bacteriophages are really robust. Like you can put them in a test tube, in a single 1 ml test tube, you can put some 1 trillion of those phages. And number two, you can dry them, make them as a powder, you can revive them again, they're alive. So the technique is robust. I will not, maybe I just will mention this slide, like I use the avian system to produce these antibody genes, basically in which the reason for that using these birds or hen I use, white leghorn hens, the reason for that is they are phylogenetically very distant to us. And the membrane proteins which were not producing good immune response in mice because having that phylogenetic similarity, they do basically produce good immune system in immune response in birds. And they have another thing is their mechanism of generating the antibody diversity that is actually different than that what mammals have. We have that VDJ recombination, predominantly that is the basis of our antibody diversity. In contrast, like what you see in birds is that they use the gene converger as the method of producing their antibody diversity. So their immune system works in a bit in a different way. With this, I conclude my slide. This was the different processes. I go to my last slide. By using this approach, we did manage to get the good antibody fragments that in our case, we had a sodium proton antipoda STNHA from Salmonella typhonurium, which we got the crystal structure resolved at 2.5 degree angstrom, which is still the highest resolution that has been achieved with any secondary transporter protein. With that, I thank all of you without going to the conclusions. I thank my colleagues, former colleagues at Max Planck, former colleagues at my uh, Freiburg University, and my colleagues at Kashmir University. Which with the last slide, I would like to end with a quote from one of my favorite scientists of the 20th century, Paul Ehrlich, that we have already caught a distinct glimpse of a land which we hope, nay, which we expect will yield rich treasures for biology and therapeutics. We see a jungle of technologies, old and new, stimulating each other in the intermediate future. Most of them start with the immunized animals. So true for even today. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Saab, for your amazing presentation on generation of avian monoclonal antibodies against membrane. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I now request Dr. Mohammad Tanveer Khan from Islamia College of Science and Commerce. He will be talking about mobile technology with spectral emphasis on 5G technology network. Please, sir. Over to you, sir.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Share your screen, sir.
Okay, screen is already shared.
Yeah. Share your presentation.
Okay. A very good afternoon to all of you, especially to the coordinator Geer Saab and other members who are the staff members. I am Mohammad Tanveer Khan, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Applications, Islamic College of Science and Commerce. Today I'm going to present a presentation on mobile technology with special emphasis on 5G technology network. All of you are aware of that mobile has become part of our everyday life, so its use is going to increase day by day. So I thought it's a better option for me to elaborate on this topic. And today I'm going to go through the generations for the 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G generations that are there in the market. So currently we are using the 4G generation, especially not in India really, but abroad. So we'll just want to move to 5G technology. So before we move to that technology, we should be aware of how this technology works and what's all about. So before starting, I'd like to give an introduction about the contents of my presentation. I'll slightly discuss about 1G technology, then I'll move to 2G technology. There's a 2.5G technology, then 3G technology we were using before, then comes the 4G technology, and today what we are going to use is 5G technology. So I'll elaborate on them one by one. So let's first come to what's a wireless communication. There are two types of basically primarily communications. The one is wired and the other one is wireless. Wired means where we have a physical interconnection between different systems. Means a wire is connected. Maybe you have the geo fiber, you have the broadband at your homes, BSNL broadband, other options that are available there. But there's other option that's known as wireless, which we are currently using. So cellular network is also known as the wireless network that we are using on our mobile phones. So they mostly use what the radio waves for the communication, or the microwaves are used for the communication purpose rather than the physical medium. So there are other equipments used apart from the wire. There are other equipments that are used. For example, we need use of routers. We need use of network interface cards that are required to catch these wireless waves and transfer them forward. So in wired communication, we make use of wires. Probably fiber optic is there. There's copper wire. There's coaxial cables. But in the wireless communication, there's no need of wire. So the first technology that was used for cellular network was 1G technology, which was the wireless technology. So it was basically introduced in 1980s, not in India here, but I'm talking about the European countries and the US. It was introduced, 1G technology was introduced in 1980s, and it continued till early 90s. The speed was limited to 2.4 kbps. Kbps stands for because this is a heterogeneous audience, it's all or not from the computer science background or electronics background. I'll briefly describe what kbps is. It's kilobytes per second. Means kilo means 1,000 bytes per second, and bytes is a unit for measuring the data transfer in computer science. So the network speed was up to 2.4 kbps. It was just allowing you to use the voice calls, not messaging. There was nothing like that. You can transfer the multimedia, that videos and audios were not possible to transfer through cellular network. So the speed was limited up to 2.4 kbps, or maybe in some networks it was up to 5 kbps. And the transmission used was analog entirely. It was not digital transmission. Okay, so next there were some drawbacks for this 1G technology. So poor voice quality, the battery life was poor. As is visible from the image, the size of the mobile phones was very large initially when it was used for 1G transmission. So that resulted in less battery life. There was no security when you transfer data. Your voice calls were not secured by any encryption means or nothing like that. The capacity was limited. So there was poor handoff reliability. Handoff means when you transfer call from one tower to another tower. So that was very poor. The connections usually used to get cut off. So then came the 2G technology. So when 2G technology came, it was based on the GSM technology. It was launched in 1991. Again, 2G technology was used digital signals rather than the analog signals that were used by the 1G technology. So its data speed increased a bit. It was from the 5 kbps, it went to 64 kbps. So a little bit speed, there was an enhancement in the speed. So there was possibility of sending text message. There was a possibility of sending MMS, multimedia message, where you can send a picture using your SMS. So there was possibility of, because the speed was enhanced, 64 kilobytes per second. So the voice quality got better and the capacity increased as well. Okay, so but still it had some drawbacks. The 2G technology required some strong digital signals to help the mobile phones work. Even the size of the mobile phones was quite large at that time as well. Okay, but 2G signal was not enough to make the videos, to transfer videos and other multimedia options. So then came this is one of the sample diagrams how the 1G phones and the 2G phones used to look like at times, maybe 10, 12, 15 years back. So you can just see it from somebody might have used these appliances. Okay, then came the 2.5 technology here when mobile was introduced in J&K. especially in our state. It's basically, it was between the second generation and the third generation network. It was known as 2.5G technology. Okay, so phone calls were used, emails were being sent, web browsing was speed. The speed got slightly enhanced from 64 kbps to 144 kbps, which allowed better transmission of image and better transmission of other multimedia content. And within this technology, the phones came with the camera option, because once you click image, you can easily send them or save them wherever you want to. So normal time taken was 6 to 9 minutes to download a 3-minute video that's depicted in the diagram here. You can check it out from the slide. So this was 2.5G technology, enhanced technology as compared to 2G technology, but it was in between 2G and 3G technology. So then came the 3G technology, which was a paradigm shift from 2G to some other technology. It's referred to as a third generation technology and was introduced in the year 2000 in India and other states. Now you can check out here that the data transmission speed increased from 144 kbps to 2 Mbps. From kbps, the shift was made to Mbps. It was a simultaneous shift. You can see from the 1G to 2G, it was just a shift of few kbps. And then from 2 to 2.5 Gbps, again 100 kbps shift. But here it was a mega shift. From 144 kbps, it went from 2 Mbps, which means 2000 kbps almost. Okay, so this was a huge shift in the technology. Smartphones came into existence, where the data transfers, cameras, web applications, and other video and audio sending softwares which could be used in the phones. So one of the phones became more sophisticated, more options were there in the phones because the technology was increased. Okay, now, but still in the 3G technology, you can see some of the features here of the 3G technology. Faster communication, we can send large emails, high speed. Your transmission was secured by high security encryption algorithms. There wasn't, we couldn't make the video conferencing particularly, which was it's used nowadays. It went on a screen from maybe 3G technology. Then there was TV screening. You can use the cable net, wireless televisions. That was also possible because it was due to 3G technology. So you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's 11 to 1.5 minutes time to download a 3-minute song or a video, any video. So the time was still a large. So now there were some drawbacks of the 3G technology as well. So you can see here, the 3G phones, when they came, they were very expensive at that time. The size of the phones was still large as compared to the 4G and other appliances. So there was expensive fee for 3G license service. 3G was very costly. The users had to pay a huge amount for 3G services. And the infrastructure was totally changed. The towers need to be rebuilt. The equipment that was there on the towers was to be changed entirely. So that incurred a lot of cost as well. So next came the 4G technology that we're living right now here. So 4G is the 4th generation technology. It's internet anytime, anywhere. Now it was introduced in the late 2000, maybe 2004, 5, but in India it came around about 2015, roundabout, or 2014, like this. So you can see the enhanced speed, the capable of providing 100 Mbps, from 2 Mbps to its 100 Mbps to 1 Gbps speed. The speed enhanced quite dramatically. So now, since this speed was enhanced, there was some more toward mobile phones. So now you can see the 4G is defined as a magic term. It's mobile multimedia, anywhere, global mobility support, everything was there in 4G. Also known as the mobile broadband everywhere. Now there's a difference between a broadband and a wireless communication. In broadband, normally we make use of the wires, but in the wireless technology, there's no need of wires. So that's why it was referred as mobile broadband, not only broadband everywhere. Okay, now the 4G had more security, high speed, high capacity. Okay, there are some other quality standards associated with it. Now, 4G is the technology that we are using right now. Now, the drawbacks of the 4G are the battery time is very less. Once you use multimedia messages, emails, and everything, your battery gets drained quite easily and quite quickly. And the 4G technology was hard to implement. Again, the infrastructure on the towers need to be changed because the device need to be upgraded. There was change in the hardware, there was change in the software. So expensive equipment was used. So, but the cost of normally the cost of the data transfer reduced. There's a reason for that, why the cost of the data transfer reduced, that I'll make in the further slide that will tell you why. Now, what I'm concerned about in this presentation is the comparison. First of all, before I go to the 5G technology, I'll just make a comparison between 3G and 4G technology. You can see there are a few parameters that are able to distinguish. Data transfer rate was up to 3 Mbps, and in 4G it's up to 100 Mbps. So both the internet services, 3G uses broadband and 4G uses ultra broadband. And mobile television resolution was low in 3G and high in 4G. And the frequency that was used for transmission was 1.62 gigahertz in 3G, and in 4G it's 2 to 8 gigahertz. And download speeds were 5.8 to 5.8 Mbps in 3G and 14 Mbps in 4G. Now coming to the 5G technology, which is the topic right now here. Now 5G technology is not yet implemented in India or other states. Maybe it's in just partially released in US, some Middle East countries, and some European countries. Most major countries in the European have stopped the use of 5G services because of some personal, I don't know what the reason is, but they have recently stopped 5G services. Now 5G simply refers to the 5th generation technology that we are going to use hopefully in 2021 or 2022. If circumstances allow, 5G will be here. That means you have to change your handsets. The 4G handset that we have right now will not be able to cope up with the network that will be using 5G technology. Again, as we changed the handsets when it went from 3G to 4G, we had to change our cell phones. Similarly, when we shift to the 5G technology, we'll not be able to use those phones that we were carrying right now. The reason being these phones are not capable of transmitting data. The hardware built within our mobile phones is not capable of transferring or receiving data at such a high speed. So the hardware needs to be upgraded. That automatically means that we have to upgrade our mobile phones. Now, it's a complete wireless communication with almost no limitations. Now, 5G is a future technology for wireless communication. Okay, now what are the major features of the 5G technology that we're going to use? It's very high speed. Not only high speed, it's very high speed. And the data transfer speed will be in gigabytes per second, not in megabytes, it will be in gigabytes. So faster data transmission than previous generations. The phone size will be reduced. Obviously, the phone size will be very less, and it will be more attractive and more effective to use 5G technology. Okay, now a slight difference between a 4G and 5G technology, it's evident from this diagram here. What I'm concerned about is there's a second data rate, you can check it out. So the data rate for the 4G technology is up to 20 Mbps. It's an average data transfer rate. Can be 40 Mbps, can be 80 Mbps, but it's an average data transfer is 20 Mbps. Where in 5G technology, the average data rate is up to 1 Gbps. That's way ahead of 4G technology. You can see 20 Mbps and 1 Gbps. 1 Gbps means 1024, approximately 1000 Mbps. From 20 to 1000 Mbps, there's a shift. So 5G technology will allow better use of communication, ease of transfer of data at high speeds. And what's basically the evolution of the evident the cell phone size for the 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. 5G will be in reduced cell phone size, hopefully. And I will just skip these slides. I'll just move on. Now, how the 5G network will work. So there are some components that are required for the 5G network. Why 5G network is very fast as compared to the other networks, maybe 3G or 4G or other technologies. Now, there are some components involved in the 5G network. The primary among them is the 5G uses the millimeter wave spectrum. For the transmission media, we use signals, and the enhanced signal is millimeter wave spectrum, which is not used by any other communication, neither by 3G nor by 4G or any other technology. What's millimeter wave spectrum? The millimeter wave spectrum starts from 24 gigahertz to 90 gigahertz. And it can also go for 5G gigahertz. They can also go for 5G gigahertz, but the network speed will be slow on 5G gigahertz, whereas on 24 to 90 gigahertz, it'll be much faster. Now, this is one of the efficiencies, the millimeter wave spectrum. No other technology uses millimeter wave spectrum. Now, the second thing that 5G uses is small cells and picocells. This is a very important concept here. Now, you can see in 4G, we have towers everywhere, maybe at a distance of 5 or 10 kilometers. There's a tower somewhere here, and then the tower sends a signal to other tower. But once we implement the 5G technology, the number of towers will increase automatically. Maybe in an area where you have 2 towers for 4G, you will have 20 towers for 5G. The reason for that is since the millimeter wave frequency is used for data transmission, they don't travel long distances. Millimeter wave frequencies have high data transfer rate. But the question is that they are prone to the higher distortion from the atmosphere and other obstacles. So they travel very small distances. That's why we require towers everywhere. Maybe there's a tower after every 1 or 2 kilometers. You will find a 5G tower. That tower is, there's a small base station that's known as a picocell or a small cell station that be used by these. So there will be an increase in the number of towers that we see everywhere today. Okay. Now there's massive MIMO. Your in-built mobile phone currently has usually one antenna for input and other one for output. but there will be multiple antennas in your mobile phone when you will use the 5G. Maybe they'll not be visible to the user, but inbuilt in the mobile phone, there will be more than one integrated antennas in the mobile digital devices. A reason being, there will be the data transfer will be very quick, so there must be more than one antennas to receive data as such, and the software will also be upgraded. The software will not work for 5G that we have currently in our mobile phones. That needs to be upgraded for sending the data and receiving the data at the 5G rate. Moving on, we have the
Dr. Saab, please conclude. We have one more participation.
Yeah, sure. Do I have any more? Should I conclude here, or do I have more time?
1 minute, sir.
Okay, so the last concept that will be used by the 5G network will be beamforming. Currently, the 4G towers or the 3G towers, they tend to send the waves along all directions. Wherever they trace your mobile phone, you get a call. But in 5G network, this is not the case. The data will be transferred, or the signals will be transferred only in the direction where the user stands. That means the data will not be transferred, the waves will not be sent along all directions. That will save in the battery of the towers, where they will be used. This concept is known as beamforming, where the user will be tracked using different algorithms and other things, where the location of the user is, and the data will be transferred only in that direction. So this is called as beamforming here. It's similar to the spotlight. When you have seen a performer performing on the stage, the light follows the performer everywhere. We call this as spotting on the stage. The same way, wherever you go with your mobile phone, the beam will follow you from the base station. And in conclusion, so I don't have left with one more time, so I'll just conclude here. Thank you all of you.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation. You talked about wireless communication and wired communication. For wireless communication, we need routers, and for wired communication, we need copper wires, etc. You talked about the drawbacks and advantage of 1G transmission. You talked about 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G transmission. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
I now request Dr. Niyaz Mir Saab to present his lecture.
Hello.
Yeah. You are audible. Your screen is audible. Visible.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Respected members and respected Geer Sab, thank you for organizing this refresher course and giving us the opportunity to present our topics. I will directly go to my topic. My topic is pharmaceutical co-crystals, the coming wave of new drug substances. Okay. Thanks to Dr. Said Mir Saab that they used the word co-crystallization in his presentation, because my topic is a little bit similar to that. We know that crystallization is inherently a purifying phenomena. We all know that. And whenever we mix 2 or 3 components, or we have a compound, we have synthesized a compound and we want to purify it, we just crystallize it so that a pure compound will come out. But bringing together more than one organic compound into the same crystal always needs a deliberate action. So that means that if you really want to have a crystal which has more than one component, you are actually doing against the principle of crystallization, what crystallization was already meant for. And this deliberate action means that we are doing some efforts, and that's why this is called crystal engineering. I will show it here. Suppose we have 2 different molecules and it has a functional group A and functional group B. And when we crystallize, we get a separate crystal of A and B with an interaction between functional group A, and functional group B and functional group B. We call this interaction as homosynthon. Then remember that this is a single component crystal. Now let us suppose that we take same molecule with a functional group A and B, same molecule, functional group A and B, and we crystallize it. When we crystallize it, we see a crystal, single crystal, a pure component, but here the interaction is between functional group A and functional group B. We call this type of interaction as heterosynthon. Now, based on this understanding that A functional group has interacted with B, let us suppose that we have taken a molecule XA and we have taken a molecule ZB. These are now two different molecules. When we crystallize, we say that co-crystallize, we get a crystal which is composed of two different components now with an interaction between A and B, or we can say that there is a heterosynthon between XA and ZB. So this type of crystal is not a pure one compound crystal. It is a two component crystal, and it's called a binary co-crystal, or simply a co-crystal. Since there are two components, we call it binary. Now, say for example, this co-crystal that we have obtained here, if XA is an API, active pharmaceutical ingredient, a molecule which is actually a drug substance, and say this BZ molecule is from a GRAS list. The GRAS list is actually generally regarded as safe by FDA, and we call it as a coformer. We call it as a coformer. If this crystal is between a active pharmaceutical ingredient and a coformer, we call this co-crystal as pharmaceutical co-crystal. Okay. Now, this crystal engineering. We have designed a co-crystal based on our understanding. So we say that the understanding of intermolecular interaction in the context of crystal packing and the utilization of such understanding in the design of new solids with desired physical and chemical properties is called crystal engineering. So we say that the crystal engineering is the art and science of making crystals by design. Crystal engineering teaches us how to bring molecules together exactly as we want. Now, I have shown a simple example before between A and B. Same is here. You see that this molecule is an acid. This molecule is an acid functional group, and this molecule is an acid functional group. So, so the interaction between acid and acid, we call it as an acid-acid homosynthon. Similarly, here we have an amide group and an amide group. The hydrogen bond interaction between an amide group and amide group will be called as homosynthon. Here we have an acid and we have an amide. So interaction between acid and amide by hydrogen bonding will be called acid amide, but now this is an heterosynthon because it's between two different functional groups. Same as here, acid pyridine heterosynthon. Okay, so this is just to give an example of this thing here. Now see here, we have an iodo nitro benzene we have, and this is the crystal structure. For example, the iodo group is interacting with the nitro group, and we have this monocomponent crystal. Now that in this monocomponent crystal, we are seeing an interaction between iodine and nitro group. So we call this as a heterosynthon. We can use this interaction by choosing a molecule, say for example, diiodobenzene and dinitrobenzene. Now that these are two different molecules, and we will get a two component crystal. This is how crystal engineering works. You need to understand the crystal packing interactions between the molecules, and then you can design the new crystals. So this is the binary co-crystal of 1,4-diiodobenzene and 1,4-dinitrobenzene. And these groups, these things here, we call them as synthons, or we call them as supramolecular synthons. We call them as supramolecular synthons. So here I am again showing these. This is the percentage. If you check the Cambridge structural database, you will see 70% of these synthons in the molecules, 91% of this. So the percentage is given here of both homo and heterosynthons. So we say that the route to co-crystal synthesis was opened up with the heterosynthon concept, definitely, which considers the complementary recognition of chemical groups from different molecules. Using this concept, binary co-crystals of enormous variety have been generated, even as crystal engineering has now evolved into a form of solid-state supramolecular synthesis. The merit in synthesizing co-crystals is that one can systematically engineer property modularity. This point we have to understand that uh, by 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 making co-crystals, we can actually choose a molecule that we want, because we know that the properties associated with the molecular structure. So we can engineer property. Each component is associated with a distinct property. This is important in the pharmaceutical industry, especially where each component can, in principle, confer a different desirable property: drug action, solubility, or permeability. So this co-crystallization concept is very important in pharmaceutical industry. So now, what can we do with co-crystallization or crystal engineering in the pharmaceuticals? We can change all these physiochemical properties. We can change the solubility. You can change the mechanical property. We can change even the tabletability. We can change the bioavailability. We can change the permeability. We'll see the examples in the coming slides. Now, someone may ask, why do we need to go for co-crystallization? Okay, we see that 80% of drugs are sold as tablets, because companies always want that the drug they are developing, it should be in the solid form because of the shelf life. And 40% drugs in the market have low solubility. This is something to worry about. 70% drug candidates in the pipeline will pose a solubility problem. So whatever 70% drugs in the pipeline, they will give us a solubility problem, and we have to do something about it. And here I have given the biopharmaceutical classification of drugs. There are 4 classes: class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4. You see here that class 1 is having high solubility and high permeability. So we have no problem with the class 1. But class 2, class 3, and class 4 has a problem. And we see here that the class 2 is having low solubility but high permeability. And the percent drugs on the market are 30%, whereas the percent drugs in R&D pipeline are 60 to 70%. So 60 to 70% drugs in the pipeline belong to this class 2 category, which are having high permeability and low solubility. We have other 2 classes also. So the aim of a pharmaceutical chemist is that this this low solubility problem here should be solved. If we solve this low solubility problem, we are moving this class 2 to class 1st. We are moving this to class 1st. And we have seen so many ways of making solid forms in the past. We have polymorphs, we have salts, we have polymer dispersions, we have solvates, hydrates of the drugs, and of course the co-crystals. But each strategy brings its own advantages and disadvantages, each to be weighed against manufacturing challenge, regulatory risk, and the desired mode of action of the drug substance in question. Like, for example, solvates, hydrates, and inclusion compounds that have been formed of the drugs, they pose low physical and thermal stability. Hydrates have a poor stability at elevated temperature or humidity. Because of these problems, these are unlikely candidates for a drug product. We have a major option that has been practiced in the past, which is salts. But what about the drug molecule with no acidic or basic groups? How can we form a salt? What about the complex chiral molecule? What about if a molecule is too weak acid or base to make a salt? So what option we have? We have the co-crystal option here. Co-crystals do not suffer from such limitations. They can be designed using crystal engineering approach, can be designed co-former selection from libraries of thousands of compounds. And once we synthesize a co-crystal, there is no change in the molecule structure by medicine. Remember this, because the interaction between the co-former and the pharmaceutical, active pharmaceutical ingredient is purely weak interaction. It is a hydrogen bond or some weak interaction. So there is no change in the structure of the medicine. And for pharmaceutical co-crystals, there is a green light from the regulatory authority also. FDA modified their guidance in February 16 and classified co-crystals and active pharmaceutical ingredients, not drug product intermediates, and endorsed co-crystals as equivalent to polymorphs or salts of the API, enabling both proprietary and generic companies to access the 505(b)(2) pathway for drug approval in the USA. So if somebody is synthesizing a co-crystal of a drug which is already in the market, and that drug has a problem, say for example a solubility issue, and if you synthesize a co-crystal which which solves the solubility issue, you can go for filing a patent with the patent authority. Here I have shown the exponential rise in publication on the topic co-crystal after 2004. You can see here, and this is also showing the frequency of patent applications relating to co-crystals. You can see the increase. Now, why should we focus on these medicines which are already in the pipeline or which are already in the market? The cost of developing a new drug at US is 2.8 billion. So if you have a drug in the market for some disease and which has a solubility issue, you cannot go for discovering a new drug, finding a new drug for the same disease. It is better to address the issue that the drug has. The number of approved drugs per billion of spending has halved each year since 1950s. This drives up the cost and puts further strain on global healthcare resources. Crystal engineering can offer a solution because new intellectual property opportunities exist for the innovators who develop co-crystals of new and existing medicines, particularly if it results in improvement of pharmacokinetic characteristics of the API. Definitely. In turn, may allow the drug to be used against different indications, enable manufacture, or improve purity of the final drug products. Companies have now begun to recognize the utility of co-crystals, and this is evident by the addition of the phrase "the drug and any pharmaceutically acceptable co-crystal" to the patents of new drug substances. So the new guidelines for patenting a drug molecule has this phrase in it. There is also an opportunity for generic manufacturers to develop novel solid forms to overcome patent protection on existing marketed compounds. This is very important. Say, for example, a company has a drug and it has patented it for, say, for example, 20 years or whatever time they have given. And when the patent is about to finish, when the timeline is about to finish, the company can form a co-crystal of the same drug and show that if it has some improved property. If it has some improved property, the company can file again a patent of the same drug. Here I'm showing some of the commercially available pharmaceutical co-crystals, and here you have given the date of FDA approval. You see there are so many co-crystals which have been already approved by FDA for different diseases. These are some of the potential pharmaceutical co-crystals, and here are the publications given where they were mentioned. Here is a summary of co-crystal products currently in the clinical trial. You can see here their company name is also given. There's a company with a name called Co-Crystal Pharma. This slide shows commonly prescribed drugs contained within the British National Formulary and the number of co-crystal forms found on the Cambridge Structural Database. You can see here caffeine. It's almost having about 120 co-crystals reported in the CSD. Carbamazepine, pyroxicam, all these important drugs, and you can see the number of co-crystals already reported. Here I have given an example which is already reported in the literature. Phloxetine hydrochloride, its brand name is Prozac and is marketed as an antidepressant. And when the co-crystals were formed with fumaric acid, succinic acid, benzoic acid, you can see the improvement in the solubility. Another example here, itraconazole, brand name is Sporanix, extremely water insoluble antifungal drug marketed in an amorphous form. Itraconazole co-crystals are as soluble as marketed amorphous phase. You can see that the co-crystals of itraconazole with succinic acid, with tartaric acid and malic acid were formed, and they were found to be soluble as the amorphous phase. Nitrofurantine has an issue with photostability and solubility. This is an antibacterial drug and belongs to class 2nd. It has temperature and relative humidity effects, and it is photosensitive. It is shown here that how it degrades in the presence of light. Now, you see here that the co-crystals of the nitrofurantine with different conformers have been formed, and you can see here enhanced photostability of the co-crystals given here, and the dissolution profile of nitrofurantine co-crystals is also shown here, and you can see that the co-crystals have more dissolution profile, more dissolution rate. There is another important aspect of crystal engineering, which is polymorphism. Polymorphism has great importance in pharmaceutical industry. We all know it.
Dr.
Because of,
Saab, can I speak? Please try to conclude.
yes. Polymorphs have novelty, non-obviousness, and utility. Say, for example, paracetamol, we all know it has two forms, form 1 and form 2. Form 1 has herringbone structure and form 2 has layered structure. So form 1 needs a maize starch binder for marketing. You can see here, paracetamol form 1 is thermodynamically stable, but it is difficult to compress. You cannot form the tablet of the form 1, and you need a binder. So the goal here is that motive is we can generate a thermodynamically stable form with a layered structure. Okay, some characters of the form 1, some characters of the form 2, and it has been done by choosing these conformers, and you can see here that this is the original form 1. You can see the tablet is not so good, and with co-crystals you can see how good the tablets are formed. There's another example, temozolomide. I'll skip this. Okay, you can see here that temozolomide has chemical stability issue. You can see the discoloration here, while as temozolomide succinic acid co-crystal, you can see here there is no change in the color up to the 7 weeks, and this shows the excellent stability with no signs of degradation. There's another option is drug co-crystals. If we know that many times the doctor prescribes us 2 drugs, and in those cases we can choose the drugs that are being given together, and we can see if a co-crystal is formed of the 2 drugs, and we can form a co-crystal. Here I have given some important publications related to pharmaceutical co-crystals. You can see the title, Pharmaceutical Co-crystals Along the Path to Improved Medicine. Okay, what we have done, we have synthesized co-crystals with 4 and 5 components, which is extremely difficult because once you mix 4 or 5 components, there is a chance that each component will crystallize as a pure component, or say a compound A will co-crystallize with compound B. That's also a possibility to form a binary co-crystal. And to get a 5 component co-crystal, once you mix 5 components, is extremely difficult. And this was the first report that we published. Okay, and based on the strategies that we have used for synthesizing, for co-crystallizing these 4 or 5 components, we wrote an review article in accounts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Niyaz Sahab from GDC Patan. You amazingly explained the concept of crystallization is as it is inherently a purifying phenomenon, bringing together more than one organic compounds in the same crystal. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Geer sir, can I say something?
Please.
I am very happy to record that UGC Academic Staff College Kashmir University has taken the challenging task to enhance and improve the academic standards of teachers of colleges and universities across the country. Finally, I would like to thank Professor Geer Saab for giving me an opportunity to moderate this session. Thank you, sir.
And thanks are also due to all the participants who made very edifying and very educative presentations during their PowerPoint presentations.
Yes, sir, exactly.
Thanks to the lead speaker, Professor Devesh Kumar Sinhaji, for a very, very important presentation on the climate change. Overall, it has been a very, very gratifying session today, wherein we have acquired a whole lot of knowledge about new things, new concepts, and this will show we'll be cherishing this particular session for the times to come. And there is one announcement that I would like to make. That is, the question paper is ready, and we'll be having the written test today itself at 3:30 after the main lead lecture gets over. Because tomorrow being Friday, some of the participants do not arrive in time after the prayers. They take a little more time. And then because we know we want all the participants to be present during the written test, we cannot repeat the written test. It cannot be repeated. If someone misses it out, he will simply lose the marks. Therefore, it is very important that all the participants are present at the time of the written test. This time we have 63 participants in this group. Still, some of them are absent, some of them are missing.
Yes, sir.
I hope that it will be communicated to those who are not present at this time that today we're at 3:30. I will put it in the WhatsApp group also. We'll be having the written test of MCQ based written test. It will be conducted online. It will be sent on your email IDs, 30 questions, 30 marks, and 30 minutes. So within 30 minutes, you have to reply and submit your answers. And that will be as part of your evaluation. Yeah, I had got disconnected. I am sorry, because actually I'm sharing not to share the video. Are you able to hear me, Dr. Rajiv?
Yes, sir. Exactly.
So what we will do is we will have the participant this MCQ based test today at 3:30 after the lecture gets over. But one thing I would request all the participants to kindly come in time and join at 2, because when we start the session at 2 p.m., there are only half of the participants present, and many people come late. So but if we think that most of the people are absent, we will take attendance early today also, and then we will close the attendance. We will not reopen the attendance. That is the only way I can make sure that all the participants come back in time. So if any participant has, some of the participants had requested the test to be postponed to tomorrow, while as many other participants had requested that it should be held today only. I received many messages on my WhatsApp in private. Many participants today itself, but many others were saying tomorrow. Anyway, we will have it today itself, and then I hope that all the participants will try to join in. I'm asking all of you to unmute. If anybody wants to ask anything, you can ask. If anybody clear any doubt, I'm asking all of you to unmute yourself. Ask anything.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Sir, is the paper different for each candidate?
No, paper is same for all the candidates. But I want to know who among the participants has not presented as yet. Are we left with any participant who has not made his presentation?
Hello.
Is there any participant who has not made his presentation as yet? Have all the participants made their presentation? Because tomorrow we are starting at 10 a.m. in the morning. We may not get time for participant presentation tomorrow morning. And then in the afternoon, we have left over. He can present tomorrow at 2 p.m. So I think nobody is left out. Everybody has presented. Okay, let us call off this session then. Please be back at 2 p.m. On time. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Let us have a lunch break for 1 hour from 1 to 2 p.m. Thank you, sir.
Only 2 p.m. we have to come back.
Yeah.